Yeah.
What works.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
For sure, no, I'm open for any.
probably my single biggest frustration.
Uh-huh.
And it is good.
I know.
How you supposed to function.
Yes. Okay, well, I just want to put it out there that I'm open if it's ever a.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I'm just, yeah, it's like I always have done it about 6 months in, because I was like, okay, I need your expertise, you know, and we talk, and we talk about things.
Yeah.
Exactly. How this works.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's just.
No, for sure.
Did you get your? I'm like, so that is recording and only break. Okay, right? Okay. That is funny, it's like, oh,
No, I think. Thank you, that was awesome. Much needed. She got it over, she goes, this is Meetjng. This one, yes. Yeah.
Oh, no, it was just that day I'm on my way.
I just accepted it, so you should be. No, I'm older than this to accept it, so you should be good.
Oh, no, that American statement is, let's go.
That wasn't even that long ago. It's a bit longer.
You're right.
But it's like, there were so many times where they
Yeah, usually that's all.
I'm literally the only person left. Just like that, yeah. Yeah. Imagine 6 years ago. I was doing that for 6 years.
It was an inconvenience.
That's why we made
Yeah,
it two.
and so we go to the remaining, and he's like, he tells the guy, he's like, Kevin.
Like, I'm correcting you, because it's been 6.
He's like, do you need to drive it? He's like, nope. We need a car, we need a car now. It was really quick, right? So, the longest haul, okay. For now.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about it in sewer related last time. Those are the really fun ones. When it's a 45-minute discussion on sewer. That was last week. That was a big sewer project.
You guys really are city folk.
I'll make note of that to make sure.
Well, so it was fully remote, and I was so home watching all this. I have to actually start. I sit in front of my computer, this is part of me, and actually make it easy. Because I would just sit on the couch and watch. And I know some information, I was watching it twice. That's how the my city council.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's like, and I'm like, what makes this one is starting, I don't want to just get off the tour. Yeah, it's. So, yeah, it's.
So you must do that at school and you go, how does that work? Just start your hours. Oh, so you're gonna all the.
Well, when I was swimming, I was only working. So, so whenever I try to join the swim, I get Will this be in my email too?
You have your map, and it's doing the interior. Okay, that'd be great, thank you.
Yeah.
Work, because we don't have desk phones at work anymore.
Yeah.
So they,
Oh, no
before
desk phones at all?
our space is getting rented, so they moved us to a new space, and they had us forward our desk phones, or cell phones, before they tore the spaces. So,
Okay, then I'm gonna do a face check.
so this is.
It's like a deck of cards over there.
Like a drug deal. This is like.
Oh, God.
Hey Ben, how are you?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm walking.
You know, wait a minute, look at, that's called, I learned that that's called a glimmer. So there can be triggers and glimmers, and so I learned when you say something that's just like, it's called a glimmer. Yes, I agree.
But yeah, just email me and we'll go 2 minutes and I'll make sure. Thank you.
So I am the guy walking around the parking lot hitting my thing, trying to find my car, so I don't try to lose my own car.
Up to the sky? No, I think that's good. And so how many kids do you want?
I got notes on my phone.
Yeah.
No. You do it. We basically are the center one. Right, yeah, no, it's just, but this, that's why I got this plug in, this. Can't hear the. Yeah. Oh, I think it's where it says music and the sound.
Yes, when I go in there, Cheryl was like, yes. Video travel.
You get the weird echo, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
national inflation is still, that makes CPI like 5 or 6. The item down there that like my dairy thing, that they're more, I think, is what I saw. She calls them 5 feet or less glasses.
Okay, well,
So
that's
they're
what
not
these are, but
reading
as soon as I
glasses.
look up, everybody's blurry, but I
Right.
have to actually see my screen.
Yeah, that's what she gave me. She said, it's the transition from reading to far away, so that's what she calls them, 5 feet or less glasses.
Okay.
And it's like this far away, I should be wearing it. There you go. So it's something with your eye, the flexibility starts to get, because like it doesn't transition as fast.
Yeah, so what you're saying is you're getting slower.
I'm not saying, I'm not.
I didn't hear him say that.
Say that? Okay.
No, I didn't hear that.
But my deductive reason is like.
I thought you were using a different word too, so I was already ready to not disagree with you. But yeah, that's what she told me, it's just it's just an eye flexibility
Yeah.
thing.
Interesting.
Thanks for your time.
Sometimes I feel like you have to stay obvious. They're passing
Oh, yeah, definitely. basically it's a job of insurance. What I have to do is, real world,
I might have gone to Google Santa Carla. That's where it is.
No, my daughter's speaking tonight. We don't want to make them feel like the family is ganging up on them, although we are, I guess. Well, this is just all so wrong. If she chooses to stick with her Irish Spring story, somebody should remind her the penalties for lying under oath are a lot more severe than making a report. You want one, Anna? You're among your kind.
The February. The February 22nd, 2024 meeting is now called to order. The first agenda item is the Pledge of Allegiance. Bev, would you lead the Pledge of Allegiance, please?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, the next agenda item is agenda changes. Does the board have any recommended changes to tonight's agenda? Okay, the next item is study session policy updates. Rachel Davenport, can you please provide the board with the policy updates for tonight's meeting?
Yes, for tonight's meeting, I thought we could go down and start looking, person by person and getting your policies in order that you might wanna discuss or have questions about. And then we'll look and see which ones have the most, start with those with, most votes for discussion, so that we have enough time to get through. Rick?
Yeah, so, 1400, 2001, 66010. Yeah, I've got my copies. 6605.
Stacy.
1400. I think that was it.
1400 and 2090.
And Mike.
1400, 4060, and 5005.
Brianne.
1400, 2004, 2190, 6550, and 6605.
Okay, well, with the unanimous vote, it looks like 1400, has the most. So I think we should start with 1400. Open the floor for discussion around policy 1400.
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I mean, I have a list, so I don't wanna override everybody else, but, so what I basically did is I kind of broke my list into 3 categories.
I'm sorry, just for the new board members, just kind of how we've done policy updates before. Really the goal of giving direction, to the superintendent of items that we would, like more investigation on. So reaching out to Wasser or legal counsel, or, you know, if you're good as is, or just recommended changes, which we probably have to run through. The important thing is that, we won't be enacting change tonight, these will come back up through, this is really just the first review.
First look. Yep. Yeah, so I said I broke them sort of into 3 groups. First off is the ones that, kind of things that I wanted to talk about, but I also heard from the community. Second one is not necessarily directly heard from the community, but sort of tangentially to things that I've heard, but that I wanted to discuss. And then the last group, I'm gonna call inside baseball. They're more things that are just sort of how we run the board that aren't necessarily things that I've heard, you know, essentially risen up, but I think that there are changes that we could make that would improve our process. So right off the bat, I think we're already covered. I think we've already addressed one, and that's recording the meetings. So that one's good. I think the other one is the start time. So we used to start at 6, and then we would start our study sessions at 5. And what often happened is we would start a study session at 5, we would block an hour, which meant we had to start the meeting at 6, but we would only take 10 minutes for the study session, so that we don't sit here for 40, 50 minutes and not be able to start. So we moved it up to 5 with the idea of saving that time. Those that were here at the time know that I didn't like that idea. I raced here from work to get here. So I would like us to go at least to 5:30, would be still the idea that we roll from study session into a meeting, that we don't have a set division between the study session and the meeting, kind of like how we operate now, we just start later. I'm willing to suggest 5:30, 6, I'm leaving that open-ended, but I think we do need to address the start time. And then the other that I think we need to discuss is the public comments, like tonight where we have a beginning public comment and then I think we should make that our permanent way of doing business. What I would like to see is the beginning like we do now, generally focused on agenda items, just because I think if someone comes and wants to talk about something that we're gonna be voting on, I think it's important that we hear that before we vote. If there aren't 10 people that wanna talk about something that's specifically on the agenda, we just roll into whoever else is here. But we give the first 30-minute peer block, not solely, but preference to those that wanna talk about agenda items. And then we have a block at the end. It could be 30 minutes, it could be 40 minutes, or we could just set the meeting will end by this time. We have time for public comment up until that point, and then we vote to stay longer if need be. Like, we can figure out the end time, however it works. I'm not committed to a specific how we do the end time. And then I know there's a lot of thoughts about how we sign up for that. We did the initial, 30-minute block before the meeting, because that was coming out of COVID, and we were trying to be fair to those folks who had to attend virtually who couldn't come. I think we could probably figure out a better way to do that. I don't know that I know the right way. If it's an hour before, if it's 24 hours before, I'm open to suggestion, but I do think absolutely we've heard that that needs to be addressed, so I think we need to talk about that. So that's kind of my first group, and I said I'll stop talking now.
I think, do we wanna basically, so we can give clear direction, do we wanna basically take each one of those and kind of see if we have a consensus?
Yeah, and that's kind of why I threw it out that way, to see what everybody else thinks on this, because I think that's kind of the most important, most commonly brought up concerns that we've heard.
I heard 3 major points, four, I guess, but one of them, the recording, we're able to record, we started tonight recording, and we're gonna post after this meeting. And then, the second one was start time of the meeting, the third one was public comment overall, beginning and end time frame for them, and then public comment sign up. So if we wanna discuss each one of those, the start time, I think we should discuss first.
So, can you kind of, the study session aspect of it?
Yeah, so like I said, we used to have a set, we would start our study session at 5 and not start our meeting until 6, and that was fixed. Because we wanted to give folks, that they knew the meeting started at 6. And once we published that, we could not start before 6. So if we had a policy session, that, for example, like tonight, and it ended in 10 minutes, we literally had to sit here for 50 minutes and not do anything by law. So part of the discussion of moving it up, the way we did, was then we just keep rolling. What I would suggest is we move the time back, but we keep that policy of, we do the study session and we roll right into the meeting, regardless of if the study session takes an hour, it takes 10 minutes. But we do move the start time back to make it easier for everybody to get to the meeting.
Yeah, I agree. And looking at our surrounding districts, I think, we have one that starts at 5:30, we have one that starts at 6, we have one at 5:45, so I agree, with you, I like the study session happening at the start of the meeting time, and then we just roll, because I think that there's a lot of people who still wanna attend even the study session, and so, like, for Bremerton, they have their study session at before, so it starts at 3:30, which I think is way too early for people who are working, and so I'm in consensus with, and maybe adjusting, I mean, if we discuss 5:30, we discuss 6 PM, I mean.
Are we only discussing that one issue right now?
Yes.
Well, I think one at a time.
I'm the same, Hansville girl here. I also work out there, so for me, and I know a lot of my constituents to get here, this timing is, I would agree, it's early. I was thinking 5:30 minimum. I also know, there's other reasons, but I think it's really important that, I'm open to also 5:30, 6 o'clock. I thank you, Breen, for the, kind of give us the pulse on what's around. I think for me, 5:30 should be the earliest we would start.
I agree, 5:30 is the earliest, but it seems like we could do 5:45, but 6 o'clock, an even number, either 5:30 or 6 o'clock.
So what would be the impact on your staff of moving it?
The impact will be there, but this is part of our job, it's what we do, and like, my staff, they're here, I'm speaking for them, and they, please feel free to speak up, I think it is impactful, and, but it is what we do, and if this is what we do, to make sure that we hear the community, then this is what we need to do.
Okay. And then student representatives, and would that cause any hardship for you guys?
I mean, being here later would definitely be a little difficult, but, I mean, most meetings don't go on too long. Yeah, should be fine.
And understand, you can always leave at any time. My first year in the board, I found out at graduation that the student rep was carrying 5 AP classes and was in like 3 sports, and I felt terrible. Cause I didn't know that till the end of the year, and our meetings used to go like 3 hours. Yeah. So, you can always say like, okay, hey, I got homework, I'm out. So, please know that, and that's true no matter when we start.
I'm hearing consensus for a later start time, I've heard, 5:30, so I guess I'm
5:30?
5:30.
Okay.
Start at 5:30. Okay, the next.
And we can always
yeah.
revisit if we need to.
Absolutely, absolutely. The next, topic brought up was the public comments, and Rick, I think you mentioned the 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after, and I heard a couple of things with the public comment. One of them is trying to reserve the 30 minutes before for, the community or staff that wanna speak on agenda items, first, so that, especially if it's something you're voting on or a management report. And then other people that have other business and have other comments to make, those go at the end, after, the business portion of the meeting. So, I don't know if we wanna talk first about having two separate, I guess, public comment sessions.
Yeah, I think 2 comment sessions and then how we organize it, probably, some of it's logistics and some of it's policy.
Yeah, I visited both Central Kitsap School Board meeting and Bainbridge, and they let people talk. Each one's a little different, South is a little different than Central, it's different. But what they do is have people sign up on a sheet if they arrive, and they put on there what agenda item they would like to speak to, so that when it's collected, people at the front know which ones are on agenda, which ones are public, comment, in general comment. The other thing that they have, which we're gonna probably talk about too, is how early people can sign up, because they don't
Yeah,
have.
and that's our
next,
third, yeah, you
okay.
got it, that is our
All
third
right,
point.
that's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think with the public comment, I'm in favor of having those 2 30-minute periods before and after. I think that the first one should be reserved for items that we are voting on. I mean, that is the primary purpose of public comment, to inform us in our decisions, so I'd like to keep that first one for agenda items.
Okay.
I think it should be prioritized, I don't know about reserved, because I also think that if we have the 30 minutes and we have 2 people on agenda items, I wouldn't wanna forgo the other, what am I at, 24 minutes, of time. So I think the wording there should be maybe like prioritized agenda items, like you were saying, and then if we have more people signed up, we try to fit in. And, you know, the other thing too, depending on timing, I know if we start the meeting a little later, this might help with that, but it may be that people are requesting, can I please be on the later one? Maybe I work until later and I wanna, you know, whatever the circumstance might be. So I think priority in different ways could maybe factor in. I know, Corey, that just means more tracking for you too. So if it's doable, and reasonable to prioritize, that first session, the second, but I am in favor of 2, definitely, to have a beginning and an end 30-minute session, and reserving the time, the whole time available, and then hopefully being able to get everyone in that wants to talk about the agenda items first, and prioritize it.
Yeah, I agree, Stacy, because we really need those agenda item comments early before we vote,
Yeah,
not at the end of the
for sure.
meeting after we've already made decisions.
But I would
Yeah,
want
I
cutoff
also
time.
agree, yeah, if we only have 2 people who wanna speak to the agenda, that the rest of that time is open, so we don't.
Lose time. We don't wanna lose time.
Right,
We
or
wanna
if
get-
people are there, that they can
Yes.
speak, and I agree, I don't know if there's a way that people, we could have where they could check if they would prefer the later time. For people who just maybe can't be there before, and so it does just create a little more flexibility and accessibility for people. And I also, I know we had talked about, cause sometimes in our meetings, well, the jumping back from Zoom to in-person to Zoom to
Oh, yeah,
in-person
sure.
is, it can be tricky. So again, I don't know if there is a way that, you know, we still follow who's signing up in the order, but kind of have all the Zoom people talk first and then go to in-person, so that we're not doing the back and forth, and we're, I feel like, I mean,
Yeah,
again, I don't know if
it's
this
absolutely
is-
possible, and I think so, in this case, it's 30 minutes, what I haven't heard referenced, if we're keeping the 3 minutes, I know in my research of the surrounding districts, that is one of the only things we all have in common, is that
Yeah, I
think it's all-
it's it's the 3 minutes for each speaker, part of so if we're looking at the sign up, if it's 30 minutes before and 30 minutes after, of the first 10 that sign up, for the agenda items, it does make sense, to have those that are signed up via Zoom first, so we're not toggling back and forth between podium and Zoom. and in the first set of 10, and then in the second set of 10, do the same thing, those on Zoom first or
Yeah.
second, but just grouped together.
Yeah.
So that we're not toggling.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, the goal here is to make it more accessible, but not make it logistically impossible, so however we can achieve both.
Streamline it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, I was not, not reserved, but preference, because we could very easily have that no one signs up for anything on the agenda, but we have a full room, and folks wanna talk, we want to give everyone the opportunity, and we may have people where we got 20 people for one agenda item, and they get here first, so it's gonna be, every meeting's gonna be different, we need to be flexible in how we allow that.
On this same item, I do think that if we have over 10 people signed up, and like last week, we just had a few more, that we should be flexible with the idea of being able to extend the comments a little longer, but I'm not quite sure, how to do that. I mean, cause it would be kind of an agenda change, which you don't wanna do an agenda, you'd have to do it before.
No,
the
there's
meeting.
so in Robert's Rules of Order, you absolutely, when the president asked for, are there any agenda changes? At that point, you could say, I motion, or I move that we extend the public comments. It looks like there's a lot of passionate people here. We should, I move to extend public comment. Is there a second? And then Mike would run that process, have a second, and then have a discussion, and then that's.
So, could Corey just give us a heads up that, yeah, we've got 20 people waiting to talk? And then somebody could move to extend it?
How would they know?
I don't know. You know,
Yes.
before the meeting started out.
I mean, I feel really good for starters, like Rick said, I think we try some things and we hope we have some patience to kind of work through some things. I think by extending and adding 30 minutes at the end and doubling our current 30 minutes is a really good step and a start. I don't necessarily know it's the answer, because you're right, it's not gonna solve all that, but I think for starters, for a trial, we try that, and if we're noting that and we're having to do agenda changes a lot because there's lots of people, then we relook at it and we can go back, like you said, kind of reevaluate what that looks like, you know? I think it's a really good start, though, to see how that goes, so that also we don't have, like what Rick was saying, where we've set out time and then, it makes our meetings, not streamlined because of how we've set ourselves up.
Yeah.
So I want to avoid that. I want to learn from your history.
No, it sounds like the majority of the board is, in favor, if I'm hearing it correctly, 30 minutes, first session, agenda items with preference priority given to agenda items, and then 30 minutes at the end of the board meeting, for other comments or other, that didn't get to the first set of 10. Majority of the board? Yes.
And
Okay.
I would just encourage you, we're not reviewing 1430, but I would make sure you go back and take a look at that, because there's some other requirements in there too that we currently haven't been following, that we need to start actually following, because it's in our written procedure.
Yeah, some of these things overlap.
Yes. The last major point of 1400 that I heard, was around the sign-up time, and so I'd open it up for discussion around, the time for sign-up.
I would start this one, just, the current process for the sign-up time, a lot of that was done, yes, it was out of COVID, but the other thing was going to make sure that we have an equitable sign-up process so that people who don't have access to the electronic means are able to sign up here in person. That sign-up in person requires a staff member to be here in the room. So that's why previously we didn't have a 24-hour period. So I think this discussion needs to start with, do we want to continue to do the in-person sign-up or move to an all electronic sign-up?
Well, I know the 2 districts I visited, they have both. So you can sign up anytime before 4 o'clock, because they want enough time for someone to organize it. And then when you arrive, Bainbridge has a clipboard you sign in, and then this is a sample of what Bremerton has and what St. CK has. So anybody looks at those,
I want to clarify too, Mike, so, and Beth, because I'm hearing two different topics here. One of them is the amount of time that people have to sign up, and one of them is is it paper copy, electronic, phone call, because I also did my due diligence in calling districts, and understanding how folks allow, one of them allows phone calls for sign up, one of them allows a walk-in to the building to sign up. And so, I wanna make sure that if we're talking about sign up time, and then hearing the different ways that people allow to sign up, are we talking about two different issues?
Well, I think depending on how early we start it will also drive how we allow it, so, and like you're right, if we allow it to be all remote, then, or if we have a mix, then it does allow people that wanna come in person, so we do have to figure that out. Again, I don't know that we're gonna necessarily nail this on the first try, but what I would suggest is that maybe, especially with the later start time, if we allow the electronic sign up 24 hours out with a sign up with kind of a hard copy here in the room, what folks will have to kind of acknowledge is that that could very well mean that you come to sign up right before the meeting and it's full. Now, we always have the ability to extend, but you know, that's not, if we extend every meeting, now we just, then our couple comment periods an hour, you know, and an hour, and an hour. So, I would suggest we try, if we were starting at 5:30, we open it at 5:30 the day before. And we always had a device in the room here to sign up, so it still was electronic and then Corey could sort, but that would be before the meeting, so that opens up the possibility that you come in here in 30 minutes before the meeting starts and everything's full, so.
But that
Again,
could
I
be
don't know that
true
we're gonna
anytime.
necessarily get this right.
I mean, it
Again,
could be
I
true
don't-
anytime if you
Right.
show up. I mean, I've been to these meetings where you're the 10th or 12th person and,
Right.
you know, they don't get you, but,
It was true when we used to just have a piece of paper at the
Yeah,
door
yeah.
before COVID. You can show up and it could be 10
Right.
people already signed up. so.
Yeah.
The thing to keep in mind with the 24 hours is that we're required to post the agenda 24 hours, and we strive to get it out beforehand, but if there is a chance that we do have to make an agenda change right at 24 hours, then you're also running the chance of expecting somebody to comment on an agenda item that we don't have a posted agenda for that,
Yeah.
so just need to be
Would
cognizant of that.
same business day be a better mix for that than to make, I mean, if
That might be
24 hour.
Cause if it comes out like
Right.
8 in the morning, like I'm at work.
Right, but that's what we're not,
Yeah.
that's what I mean, like, it might
Yeah.
be a perfect thing, because that is an issue, and I think it is important that 24 hours out is our agenda posting. Now, if we're saying 24 hours out, you can send it for comment, that, I could see the.
yeah, but we
Okay,
can play
but
with
we
that
can
by
play.
1 hour
Yeah.
and say it's 20 hours before. I don't see that as being a big problem.
We just gotta find a clock that works for whatever time you can.
Or, I mean, cause I like the ahead of time, I don't
Yeah.
know if it was an hour before for both. You know, if it's an hour, so we extend the sign up for online, but we also have, so they could sign up in person an hour ahead, or
So starting at 4:30 still, because we're 5:30
Online.
meeting.
cause I agree, some of this is, you know, making sure that we can do this and that it's, you know, and then we could always extend it then, if it's, and it seems, and also if it seems that the majority of people are signing up online, always,
Then we'll know.
you know, then we maybe know we don't need to have, or that it's not being utilized. I mean, I don't know, I'm just trying to think too of just, for somebody who's traveled here, who wants to speak, and then they find that that,
Everyone signed up 23 hours ago and they missed out.
I don't know the best answer, but that would just be a way, I mean.
But if you sign up online, you could speak in person.
Correct.
Yeah.
We're not saying you have to sign up, be on Zoom.
No, I think
So
that-
if I really knew I wanted to talk, I probably would sign up online, but show up here.
And I think what I heard too is equitable access, and so if we are opening it up 24 hours in advance online, that access actually does shift. So folks that, want to come and sign up in person, it's now inequitable to them. Because folks online can sign up a day in advance, where maybe I don't have that ability to do that, but I have the ability to come here at 4:30 and sign up in person. So is there a way to do both, where we're not,
Another question is, do you have to be at work to open the online sign up?
I would be, yeah, I would.
Okay,
I
and
don't
you're
have-
not here at 5:30. So if we do 24 hours in advance of the meeting, that's after you go home. So that's another factor.
Whatever you want to do, I can take it with me.
Well, yeah, but we're not gonna make you work at home. So that's another factor. You know, it has to be inside Corey's working hours, so, you know.
So, Brian, I think in hearing what you're saying, we start with an hour, extending it from a half of the current to an hour, but add the in-person option to sign up, so we have an hour online and an hour in person as a start to try to see, is that kind of what you're
That's-
proposing, or do you know?
Is that feasible to do?
I don't think that's enough time.
You're-
Just 1 hour before the meeting to sign up online, when we have the ability to sign up anytime online?
But then you're giving preference to people that are signing up online. That's kind of, at this point, that's kind of what we.
Yeah, it's a
That
hard
would be my
balance.
preference, is just, let's go ahead and extend it to the hour both ways, revisit it and see how that process.
But I
goes.
agree, I mean, Bev, I think down the road too, if we're seeing really consistently that the majority of people are always signing up online and that we're not really getting a lot of usage, I think we revisit this and we could extend it. But it's kind of one of those where we don't know yet, and I do have that hesitation of, there are people who I know just don't sign up for things on their phones or on their computers. They're just like, I come in person, this is how I do it, and I am a little concerned about just that piece of it being full, and they come in person and they can't sign up, but.
And I would say at this point, I mean Corey, opens the room, and the room is prepped at 4. And that's where we're at right now, so the room is ready, prepped at 4, ready to go, so that is completely doable, on board meeting nights. Without too much change in the process, not putting, and please speak up, without too much
I would
change.
say 4, because I'm usually here getting everything set at 4. So if we go to it at 4, that would give an hour and a half.
Mhm.
I'd be willing to make that a starting point, and then we see from there. Like you said, see, kind of
Do you
keep
wanna
track
do,
and
we could do
see.
an hour and a half? Is that,
Yeah, we get that.
so we do an hour and a half, so we could open online as well for an hour and a half.
But you could also send it in person during an hour and a half.
Right, so I'm gonna, cause we have 2 different, so I'm gonna do time, first, so I'm hearing time, an hour and a half, so board meetings are gonna start at 5, we're gonna open up, public comment sign up at 4.
So 5:30, opening up.
Yep, 5:30, opening at 4.
Yeah.
Majority of the board?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And then with the same, both electronic and in-person sign up. Majority of the board?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And it'll have on there, if they're speaking to an agenda item
Yes.
like we do.
Yes.
And also the options for if they would prefer the later. Okay,
We'll change the form.
okay. Thank you. Okay.
Those were the major points of 1400. Is there anything else in 1400?
Did
Well, I
you
have
do
more,
the
but I was
3
gonna
minutes?
let somebody else go next.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just had one, and it's more of a question, it's later on in public attendance and comments, says, written comments, must be received 24 hours before the board meeting. I don't think that we're adhering to that right now. And I understand the reasoning for that is that, you know, we should be reading through those written comments that we receive. You know, I think we mostly do, but, you know, with work and everything, that's an issue. So I guess the question is, and I didn't get a chance to research this, are we advertising that anywhere else? I think we might need to add that, to the actual, the agenda, if it's not already on there.
Mike, I wanna make sure I heard what you were saying. You're saying that if they have a written comment, to get it to us an hour and a half before?
24 hours before, the
Okay.
policy
Current
states
policy.
24 hours before.
Yeah,
the
like
board
this.
meeting.
Okay.
So,
I think it currently says until 2 p.m., but.
It does.
We had it. We'll just extend it to 5:30.
yeah, if you can, yeah, just
Oh, yeah.
extend it to,
Yeah.
24 hours, so that way, yeah, we'll make it sure that we all have time to read this.
Good with that.
I had
Okay.
a couple others to add. I would like to see, and I know because some of these policies do, merge together, but I would like to see that we look at, our wording, just kind of our language for the public comment, And, so not only what is posted on the website, but also what we're reading in our meetings. And again, that's maybe not something we hash out right now, but I think that this is something maybe, we could work on. And, cause I do feel that, I would just like to see that language is, updated and adjusted and, on our website and what we're reading in our meetings every week, so.
Well, I think it's important too, Green, because if we're gonna update the form for sign up, it does really bleed into this, because I think it's important, the least amount of changes we need to make, so I think it is important we look at that. That if we need additional language on the form, that maybe we can cut out some of what we're saying in the meeting. That would be my preference, if that's possible. I don't know how we go
A
about
couple
that.
other districts do that, they put
Yeah.
the guidelines on
Right,
paper.
Yeah, cause I think guidelines are extremely important, but I also, I feel like too, for all of us, I think we, very much value, the public coming and listening to the public, and I think that we just, we need to update that and.
Yeah.
Welcoming, friendly language.
Yes.
Yes.
Because I
Thank
think
you.
that,
Yeah, and some of it,
It's an
and I know the public doesn't know this, cause it was some put out there, some of it was put out by WASDA because of legal issues in other districts.
Right.
So some of it was suggested language because of problems other districts had, so they were like, if you put these words in, it helps protect everybody. So it's not that necessarily we're trying to prevent, it's that, like, your words have legal consequences. This is because of bad actors in other districts, and WASDA saying, this would help everybody. So some of this is formulaic language that came down as, if you, yeah, WASDA guidance, so we can revisit, we can go back and see if they've had changes too, cause that was last spring, I think, when they were, and that was not issues we were having in this district, but others were. So, some of this is, again, it's a learning curve as we got back into public comment. Just like there's a lot of municipalities that have removed remote comment from all their meetings because of bad actors on remote public comment.
Well, I think there's.
True hate speech, so.
Just kind of hearing, what Grant's and having the rationale behind it, I do think that there is, like, we are aware there are policies, we deal with them every day, and I think that the intent behind having this type of policy is to prevent bad things from happening and to inform, staff and the public that words have meaning, and if that information is out and available, and folks know that it exists, it is one thing, but to create a welcoming environment where we have community and public want to get up and say something to us and feel comfortable doing that, that's what we wanna create. And so if we are saying language that stops them, from being able to be comfortable in doing that, then I agree, we need to look at changing
adjust
it.
Well, if it's part of the sign-up process, that covers probably most of it.
Yeah.
And then we just
And I will double check, I know Mike, I can double check with legal on this, so.
Yeah, I think that's the action, if you guys are okay,
Yeah.
is that we take that verbiage and we run it back through legal counsel again, and to see if what has changed since the last time we did that.
And then maybe as
What's
much
your
of
name?
it as possible be on the sign up form that they sign to, or something.
yes.
Yep.
And I have a feeling there's some just going to other surrounding districts, that there's some flexibility there. And I also, just on that same note, in our policy, we talk about, individuals with disabilities and I would just like to see that we also put that on our website so that anyone, who may need assistance, in order to attend the meeting, that we have that on there, that they know who to reach out to.
The part where it says public notice.
This is, down 3 paragraphs.
Yeah, can you scroll to that, Cory, cause I actually have something for that too.
But yeah, I would just like to see that, that's on our website, so people, know where to find that and know where to get assistance.
Yeah, there's a specific statement
It's-
under public notice.
It's the third paragraph down. From the top.
Where are we now?
It's a little, it talks about
Yeah,
public
keep
notice.
going down a little, there it is.
So it says individual with disabilities who need modification to participate those who have difficulty should, contact the superintendent's office no later than 3 days before. I would like to suggest that we add in, because, I really should have worn my glasses, I'm sorry. Those are, they're in my bag, I'm just not wearing them. Those that require translation services, because that's something we've heard before, but we do need to have time to arrange that. So I think if we added that, so it's required modification to participate, required modification, translation services, and those who have difficulty should contact the superintendent 3 days before. That gives Rachel time to arrange that if necessary. Because I know, trying to do it the day of, we don't necessarily know that we're gonna have somebody.
I'm glad you brought that up, because there are some people that would like to address the board, but they would like assistance with their English.
Right. And there could be a language that translation services could be pretty difficult to arrange, so we might need some time. So, I don't know that we've had that happen yet, but it's certainly possibility, so. So yeah, I was gonna suggest that language for that. Maybe add that. That was in my next group.
Okay, any other comments for 1400?
Well, I just had one comment that I hope isn't gonna throw a wrench in it. But if you go up on this agenda above where it says the board is not obliged to respond to questions, and the paragraph, 2 paragraphs above that, it says the board is not obliged to provide additional public comment time to accommodate everyone in attendance who wishes to speak. And then it says any structure the board imposes will be content neutral. Does that mean we can't say you can only speak to the agenda?
No, I think that means that we won't give, if there's a pro and a con, that we won't give just one.
Oh,
side.
okay, good, good, all right, that's probably.
That's all I hear that.
All right, good, that's good.
Okay, 1400?
Yeah, right, so I
Okay.
wanted to give people a chance to talk, I didn't wanna throw. So the translation was in my next group. Something that I saw, and I know this is gonna, at CK, that I thought was interesting, and I know it's gonna be a little harder for us to do, and this is 100% logistics on you, Rachel, but if we agree, they have a standing part of their communication portion of their agenda where the CKEA, so NKEA, and then they have all of their classified staff is in one union, so the president of that union, each president has a standing time to come and address the board. Now we have 7 groups, so logistically that would be a little different, but if there's a way that we can work in, and obviously we would not require them to speak, because they may not want to, but if we can work into our standing agenda in the communication section, an opportunity for them to come speak. And the meetings I sat through, it was what's going on in our group this last couple weeks, talking about folks retiring. It was a very positive time in the meeting. I think it could be something we add. Again, obviously, we have a different layout in our district, we've got to work it out. But I would think if the rest of the board is open, that we work on how to logistically do that as part of our meeting.
Well, I mean, we rotate 10 schools through school connections. I see it similar where we rotate, if it's 7, we maybe set up 2 per, roll on a rolling basis.
Yeah, like I don't see the coaches want to come talk.
Yeah.
Well, they might.
And we
You
just,
know,
exciting stuff.
yeah, and we just give them the option and we lay it out, so we have maybe 2 per and we roll it,
Yeah,
so every however many meetings.
but yeah, it's a set part, just like the board,
Yeah,
just like the
standing.
student reps, that's part of their agenda.
That's great.
Yeah, that's
Year 2, 3?
I'd like to see it part of the agenda, even if they just, pass, they don't have anything to say.
Yeah, they don't have to,
Yeah, that's fine, okay.
I get to meet with them all the time, so I'm sure they would love to talk with you all as well, so.
Yeah, like I said, not mandatory, definitely don't wanna force anybody to public speak. Who
No,
doesn't want
no,
to,
no,
but
no.
Well, we'd
opportunity.
still
And
have
if
to limit
somebody
it to
is
3 minutes,
uncomfortable, I can
right?
certainly
No,
pass
they're
that.
like a board comment, so it's just like our comment on the
Oh,
superintendent,
we're
so.
not gonna limit them to 3 minutes.
Well, I mean, I think if they were.
You don't know some of them, some of them
Right.
take up that 3 minutes.
Right, yeah, that's part of the logistics of figuring it out, how we want to do that, but,
We could possibly just forego 4 comments. for that meeting too.
Yeah. Well, this is, like I said, this is a regular part, for CK, it's a regular part of, they have the board, they have their board reports, they have the superintendent, they have student reps, and their student reps roll for different schools, they have the CKEA and CK,
ESP.
okay, thank you. You know, it's just part of their communication section.
Yeah, I hear the majority of the board wanting that. I would need, just a little bit of time to work on the logistics. I see a couple of them here anyway, so they are probably eyeballing me, giving me the yes, but,
Yeah.
Others, I would need time to work on the logistics and what that looks like with my agenda planning.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So one thing I noticed, and this kind of leads into 1420. So if you read our policies, it actually says, so we do agenda changes. And we've done this as long as I've been on the board, so it's not really something bad on me for not reading this even before. We do agenda changes, but if you actually read our policies, it talks about agenda adoption. And what the superintendent and the board president do to prepare for a meeting is a proposed agenda. So I really think what we should be doing at the beginning of the meeting, rather than just agenda changes, is we should be adopting our agenda. I've seen that in other formats, so it should be, is there any agenda changes? And then we vote to adopt the agenda, formalizing the agenda of the meeting. Like I said, I've never seen this district do this in all the years I've been on the board, or even those I attended, but I've seen it in other jurisdictions, because I've seen it in schools and non. And our policy isn't really clear, other than it says proposed agenda in one, and then in another one it talks about adopting.
And that's 1430, correct? Not
So it's there's 1420, there's 1400, there's 1430, kind of, as you go through them, it's not really consistent, so we'd have to kind of look and see, but I think that would be, the best way to approach it would be to start doing an adoption vote, and then clean up the other policies as needed to make that formal. But I think 1420 is the one that specifically calls it a proposed agenda.
And in 1400, it calls it a prepared agenda.
Yeah.
And then it says we may, adopt a revised agenda, so.
Right, so, yeah, so I think that would make it a cleaner process if we formally adopt it at the beginning, and then we don't have any and then we just, like I said, make the additional changes.
But don't we have to have the agenda published 24 hours before?
Well, it's a proposed agenda, so that's what I'm saying, right now we're.
So if the proposed agenda didn't include something that was really important to certain people in the community, and then one of us adds it, and they go, well, if I knew you were gonna talk about that, I would have come.
And that's why for as long as I've been here, we try not to change the agenda significantly in the meeting, because we don't want anybody to think we're slipping something in at the last minute. I mean, that's, we try to stick to what we got. And this isn't necessarily saying we would still change it, but we would formally adopt it, so that the agenda that we're now progressing through our meeting has been voted on by the entire board and is the agenda. That's what I'm saying. We still have the ability to change it, that's still part of the meeting. But what we've never done is formally adopt the agenda at the start of each meeting. And I think that we should start doing.
Like move it from, so it moves it from a proposed or a draft agenda to the agenda.
Yes.
It moves it to
Yeah.
what we've accepted as the agenda for the meeting.
Like you saw us do it last night at the city council. At the beginning of the meeting, are there any changes? No. Okay, move to adopt the agenda, go.
Yeah, so there's, 3 key terms: adopted, prepared, and proposed, in all 3 different policies.
Yes.
And I'm just gonna be really vulnerable and tell you, I don't know why all 3 policies say something different around it. I also know how you change and have an action item to change, the agenda. So I would have to make sure, with legal counsel that sometimes, 38 attorneys create one and then 38 attorneys create the next one. I wanna make sure that there's not rationale reasoning why those words are 3 separate words in those 3 different policies.
Absolutely.
Yeah, first.
Always defer to the lawyers. Keep that right.
Yeah, Brian, just a good time to remind me, these policies are coming from law, so better through legal attorneys, so that would be my request, is that we get clarification before we do it.
So people know that next meeting doesn't start at 5:30. I mean, just because we talked about it tonight. doesn't mean it's gonna happen.
Oh, yeah, we're not actually taking action on this policy change fast.
Yeah, policies.
I just wanna make sure people knew that they didn't decide to.
So the clarification is is seeking guidance on formally adopting the agenda after it's been, drafted, posted. When we come to the meeting and we ask for agenda changes, if there are none, do we formally adopt the agenda at that time with vote?
Or
And
can
if-
we, I guess, is
Right.
not, do we?
And if there are changes, you just adopt it as amended.
As amended, yep,
Mhm.
yep, okay, perfect.
Okay. There is another, so something, and I wanted to throw, this is another federal policy, but, we have 1,200 and we have 1,250, which both cover our student reps. And something, and I definitely want them to think about this and come back to us. So there is something that WASDA encouraged and adopted before, and some of our other neighbors have done it. Bremerton has a policy that we could look at as an example, that's instituting student advisory votes. And so basically, for you guys to know what I'm talking about, is we go to vote on something, we have our discussion, and then before we vote, we ask you how you would vote on that. Your votes are non-binding because legally you're not allowed to vote. But we're asking you, if you could vote, how would you vote? It lets us hear your official take on the subject. You can always say, that is something I don't know anything about and I'm not comfortable voting. This is how I vote yes, I would vote no. You know, it's a chance for you to chime in and say, this is what I feel on it. I'm suggesting it as something, because it would be a change to how we conduct our meeting. But I would want to hear from the two of you when you've had time to think about it, if that's something you would be comfortable doing going forward. And then the rest of the board, if it's something that you would want to add.
So which policy are we discussing?
So it would be part of 1,400, because we changed it would be part of meeting, but it would be part of either 1,200 or 1,250, where we would actually add the language of 1,200 and 1,250 are kind of duplicative, and we kind of need to look at those two. But Bremerton's gonna go to 1,250, where they actually outline how an advisory vote works.
So is what you're proposing that we push 1,250 up to the next policy batch review?
Pending what everybody says.
Yeah, just trying to give some action
Yeah.
behind this one. So is
Yeah.
everybody okay with that? So
Yes.
Yeah, that's it, I'm springing it on them, so I don't expect an answer tonight. Bring it up to the, well, here you go. Well, it's already, they're both shaking their heads, yes.
Okay.
And what I say is you can always reach out to those other student reps too, if you want to know how they, I said Bremerton's been doing it since last year.
Yeah, sure.
So it's just another opportunity, it's another piece of.
Feedback mechanism.
Yeah, we have our discussion before we call the vote, we ask them for their vote.
And I think
They may or
Bremerton, oh, sorry.
decline, and we pick up vote.
They have their student reps on the website as well. So that might be also something, if we do adopt this, that it would be great to have, they list the student representatives and, you know, what schools you represent and, so if they would be, I mean, I'm sure there's steps we have to go through, but that might be nice to have them on our website as well.
So if they're willing and if it's legal, because they are students, so.
Alright, policy 1,400, are we?
That's my last, yes.
Good, okay. The next one that, had votes is policy 2004.
Oh, was that me?
I had a comment.
I think so.
No, there was a couple people on, Rick
Yeah,
and
Doris,
Leanne.
okay, yes.
Yeah, this is around, performance improvement goals.
Yeah, I mostly just had a comment, it was something I had clarified with Rachel, and I wanted to just make sure, I wanted to bring it up to everybody. It talks about adopting graduation rates, and it talked about a 90% goal. I had asked Rachel if that is recognized only as a 4-year graduation rate, or if they took into account 5-year graduation. And I believe you said that is only looking at a 4-year goal, correct? Yeah, so that's good, but not the best option, because we do look at 4-year and 5-year rates, so.
And mine also, I had asked, and just to, in in our policy, it states that at the end of the year that the district that we're reporting progress in a news release to local media, and that states it in the policy, and I was not sure if that was something that we were doing.
Yeah, and Gwen Lyon could probably speak on this too. It is something that we put our SIP and DIP up, and out. We send it out. I don't know the last time it's published, but the DIP and SIP usually comes around to the final performance goals, a couple times a year. And that is usually once in the fall setting the goals, and then once, in the spring as we're culminating, usually in June.
Yeah, it's in June. And we can share it, it doesn't mean you're running.
Yeah.
It's kind of been the situation.
Yeah.
But we posted on the website, and
Yeah.
it's on the board agenda.
And it's out, yep, we see it. So yeah, I just saw that it was to local media, and I didn't know, I mean, it'd be wonderful if
There are
they
times
would.
when we try sending stuff out,
If they would
sometimes they
take
take
it.
it, sometimes they don't.
Well, we have some local media here, so it'd be great if they would post some amazing stories about the work we're doing.
That was my only.
All right.
Thank you.
And then next one was 6605 that had multiple, Rick and Brianne. Needs some clarification.
Yeah, so there was one point where, cause the switch committee, the superintendent, but there was a place where committee's still in there. So that was one thing, if you go down to where the list is, where it says the committee will. Yeah, so if you go down towards the end of the policy, there's a list that used to say the committee, oh yeah, right here, so, in developing plan, the committee will consider, so that should be changed to superintendent. Or district, whichever is appropriate, but since we eliminated the committee. Or superintendent designee is probably, that's what the rest of the policy says. And then I just, again, I'd ask Rachel, because if we had a committee before that was an outside committee, then we were pulling in experts from the community. If we're not gonna have any more, is there value in then connecting with experts that may know things that we don't know, but the designee doesn't know, like our SROs, who may know that one of the routes that we're proposing has a high accident rate, or things like that. So, more of a suggestion just to superintendent in developing this, than necessarily a rewrite of the policy, but that if we're gonna look at roads around our schools, to have safe route, walking, biking, rolling, that we engage with the county, with the city, with our SROs to make sure that we're not setting up students to travel on paths that they know to be unsafe.
And I will, double check and confirm with John Waller. He works most closely with our SROs and around safety.
Yeah, so public works, SROs, there's other experts out there that maybe can help us, because they might know,
Transportation and all
you know,
that. Yep.
we say use this road, but then they know, hey, in 2 months that whole road's getting torn up. So
Right.
there's just outside sources that we could probably help improve this process.
Right.
And my question, around this, when reviewing this policy, was just that it states that, the superintendent or designee will, review the plan, and that, upon approval, that it would be distributed to all students with instructions that it would be taken home and discussed with parents. And my question was just, I didn't know if that plan was going home with students, if that,
Yep.
students had taken that home.
And I will, check and clarify with him too. He is not, present tonight, and that is, it also says superintendent designee will, review that, and I have not reviewed that plan. Haven't had time.
Been a little
Yeah.
busy. No.
So, but yeah, I will double check. I'll put that down for him.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Would it be pertinent to include, Brandon, does it include for like distributed via electronic means, now we have NiceWare where we can like do, I don't wanna name the software, but
Yeah, right.
change the verbiage to include that.
I think there is a way to do that, and again, the experts around Parent Square be able to do that. Some of the things that I worry about publishing is, here's how my kid walks to school. Anybody wanna walk the route with them? Like, I mean, those are things I would stay away from publishing on the website, but if there is a specific group of parents whose
Where you can
students.
get it out.
Yeah, that we can do it via Parent Square where it is, more secure than publishing it online, but that is, when we were discussing why we would print it out, have a kid take it home to discuss with their parents. The other piece that doesn't, we can't control what happens at home, so we give that to the kid, expect them to go home and look at their safe route.
It just feels out of date when we're communicating with parents electronically, to maybe just simply say that, we will communicate via electronic standards as whatever the standard is for the.
Well, and I know on
Whatever the
Parent
lawyer
Square,
speaks into
the
that.
teachers are great about also letting us know, like, this is coming home with your child.
Yeah, something
Which
to that
then I
effect.
know, like, Jax, what's in your backpack? Give it to me.
Yeah, some sort of way to delineate that.
Okay, so I will follow up on that one. That's the remainder of the policies that had multiple, folks. We can just go down and look at, a few more. Next one was, 5010.
Yep, okay, so all the way at the bottom of this, before the references, which is not right there, sorry. This is not a change, but I just noticed it rereading. The board will designate a staff officer as the compliance officer. That jumped out at me as actually violates our other policy of board and superintendent relationship, in that if we designate anybody other than the superintendent, that we're designating a staff member who doesn't work for us. So, not sure how to change it, because otherwise we only can designate the superintendent. So I think, so the language of that sentence, and I don't know if that's just the old holdover language from before, but, I see that as problematic unless it's something to the effect of, we'll designate the superintendent or designee instead of a staff member, but, it just doesn't fit with any of the rest of the language of any of our policies in which we only designate the superintendent.
And I think it seems like a fairly simple rephrase to put it in line with some of our other policies, that the superintendent or designee will serve as the compliance officer. We can make that adjustment, so it's in line.
And I'm fine with that, yeah, I just didn't know, it just didn't match, so however we need to fix that, I think we should fix that.
All right, policy 2190.
I have 20 or 90. Did somebody have 21?
Did I? Oh, okay, yes, sorry. Okay, yeah, this is the highly capable program, and I just am reviewing, okay, sorry, I have to find it. In the, I guess it would be the second full paragraph, cause here it kind of states the update, which I think we are all aware of, that, there's universal screening now for the 2nd and 5th grade, but also that there is, a referral program that anybody from any other grade can be referred. And I think, that are not being universally screened, and it kind of states it down at the last paragraph, but I would like to see that it's just more clearly written that, about that referral program and what it encompasses, so that it's very clear that that is available for all other grade levels besides 2nd and 5th grade, and also that at the end of the year, if we're reviewing that, program, that's included not only how many, kids participated in every grade, but also how many referrals outside of the universal screening did we have. So I didn't know if there was a way, cause right now it just says state guidelines for implementing universal referral. So I don't know if there's a way that we can just kind of what's here. On this,
Clarify the language, basically
clarify
take
the
that.
language to make it, so it's just very clear that what that referral program, how that works.
So the summary, where we have it written in the summary, what the changes are, or what we do, take that and replace that sentence, that's kind of, is that?
Yeah, I mean, it could go there, or it could go even maybe in the 2nd paragraph. Cause I think that's where it kind of elaborates more on what, the universal screening is, and then also it'd be great to maybe just put in the, kind of what that referral program, what it, encompasses.
I would say with the military population, yeah, we definitely, because there's plenty of kids that transfer here in between or outside of those grades, so, you know, we don't want it to just be that time.
Well, that's okay, people can be tested now, right?
Yeah,
You
there-
can let
oh, yeah,
kids
yep,
tested if
yep,
necessary.
there's a referral program and there's a procedure that goes along with this, and I know when's
The procedure
It's
is,
the
a lot of what
procedure
you're
talks
talking
about.
about, Jan, is in the procedure.
So even parents can refer, right?
Parents,
Yep.
staff, there's an entire process
Oh,
for
okay.
referral outside of the universal screening, so yeah.
Right.
very-
And we don't wanna get into the procedure, I liked how it was written here, you know, kind of the summary, and I would like to see that that's in our policy, so it's very clear what the, referral,
We'll
health
look for,
referral.
to see where we can move that sentence and see.
Okay.
So I had, 4060, that was, distribution of information. So with this one, it's interesting, if you read the proposed change, it's, the purpose is to protect the district from inadvertently creating an open public forum by adding language that reserves the district's right to cease providing information that impedes or distracts, and get the rest of it. But it's interesting, because everything that we took out kind of seems like it's contrary to that, because we took out the identity of who's actually going to screen those. We removed, responsibility of the superintendent. So I guess what I'm asking is, I know that we can clarify that in the procedure, but I think that that also needs to be in the policy too, who would actually be responsible for screening that information before it's posted on the district's website. So I think that's just, you know, before it comes up for next one, just a proposal of who would actually be doing that.
Clarification on that, we're gonna meet as a team and see what
Okay.
that person would be.
And then the other one I had was 5005, which is basically employment personnel. So the proposed change there is meant around pre-employment testing of cannabis use. So the question there is qualification or clarification, because we say if the district requires prospective staff members to undergo pre-employment drug testing. So just more clarification of, will the district conduct pre-employment drug testing? What is the intention?
Yeah, so there's statute around, safety type jobs that would require that type of drug testing. So for example, it would be, like CDL, somebody that would have a required CDL license, so somebody in transportation, that would be required to have that pre-employment test.
Okay, so we will continue to do it?
Yes,
where
yep,
appropriate.
where appropriate.
Okay, so really, I think no further clarification on that.
And then Bev, I think you had 2090?
Yeah, I had a question
Yeah.
on policy number 2090. At the bottom, it's, of the statement, it talks about parent notification, no tests or measurement devices containing any questions about a student's or his or her family's personal beliefs, practices in family life, morality, and religion shall be administered unless the parent or guardian gives written permission for the student to take such test, questionnaire, or examination. Does our social and emotional survey panorama fall under that category, that we should be getting parent permission?
Yeah, and I can let, Jeremy come up and speak to Panorama.
Yeah, so Panorama doesn't fall into this category, so the policy is largely about like measurements for assessments, or it says diagnostic personality tests, or questions that ask about religion and home life. all of the SEL questions ask about the skills that the kids have, their social emotional skills. And then the other questions, even in our climate and culture, only ask about the school and the supports they are getting within the school, their school belonging feelings. None of the questions ask anything about the home situation, so it doesn't apply here.
Okay, thank you.
Believe it or not, I missed something on 1400.
No.
I know. I looked at my notes again. So, when we were going into COVID, I had suggested to the board president at the time that we had board reports. Because we had a ledger report, but we didn't have, the rest of the rest of the positions didn't give board reports. So we crammed it into our board comments. And then when we went into COVID, we got locked down and we got lost all communications. When we came out of COVID, we added board reports, but we took away board comments. And that was never the intent, was to replace board comments with board reports. So I would like to suggest that we add board comments back in, because the intent is that we give reports on our positions, the assigned liaison positions, but we also should talk about what we do with board directors, what we've done, you know, have an opportunity to speak, people hear from us. So I would like to suggest we add board comments back in. And I also want credit for the fact that I didn't ask to talk about 2410.
So, would you be okay renaming board reports?
No, 2 separate line items. We have board comments and we have board reports.
Okay.
So we used to have just board comments, we had a ledger rep report, and we had board comments. So like, if you had another position besides ledger rep, it would be like, I went to the football game on Friday, oh, and by the way, I went to the city council meeting. Like, you had to cram it all together. And I had had a discussion with Cindy saying, hey, we should probably separate those two, because why is the ledger rep the only one that does a report, and everybody else sort of crams it all together? And we were still talking about that, and then we got locked down by the governor, and all of our communications went away. And then when we came back, we added the reports in that I had suggested, but we didn't add comments back. So I'm saying we put comments back so we all go through our reports, and then we all go back through it and have comments.
Yeah, I'm fine either way, or we can just say board comments, and if you wanna talk about your reports during that.
Well, that's what we used to do, but what it tended to do is, I think board members felt obligated to sort of rush, because it was like, I need to talk about something, but then I think it's better practice to have it separate. So you can, you know, like, tonight I have a few things about ledger that, and if I was to then wanna talk about something I did in district, I would feel compelled to, you know, shorten my comments, because we're here long already and I don't wanna talk longer. But if we separate it and make it a separate item, you know, it breaks it up.
And you wouldn't necessarily, if you don't have something to report,
Yeah, you just say nothing to report this week.
necessarily have to say it.
Yeah, you're not obligated, it's an opportunity. And what it used to be often was things like, hey, went to the football game, they did great, went to the art show, great performances by the kid, you know, it was just a chance for the board to talk to each other, because, you know, we don't get to talk to each other outside the meetings. It's a chance to talk to the community, you know, great things that are happening in our district, that kind of stuff. So it's separate from our assigned roles.
Right, I think I heard yours, do I hear the majority of the board? I heard Brianne say separate those two out, 2 separate line items, board comments, board reports.
Yep.
Yes. Are we giving Rick like a 3-minute limit on that?
Hold on. That's what you're getting.
Oh, you're
signing off.
okay.
You're signing off.
Oh,
Lori's
okay.
got the timer going for him already.
Okay, the session ends in 2
I was
weeks,
just
so-
checking what your intent was.
Okay, all right. Did I miss, any on here?
I just had a
Clarification.
quick
Yes.
question on 6550. I was just reading that policy now, for how many subscriptions do we know how many that we have that exceed $75,000?
We do, we had a team doing some research on that, and I don't know if it got finished, and if not, we will
Yeah,
have it.
that's
I don't know,
okay.
Mike, Jeremy, from the back row?
We did start looking into that. Right now, the only thing that we're still in the subscription for the year is our Avid subscription that's over that threshold. Some of the other subscriptions we have were prepaid, so they at the time would have been considered over the 75,000, but that's been covered. So Avid's the only one that I've seen so far.
Okay, so we would just have that one.
Mhm.
That then we now have to put as a liability. Okay, okay, thank you.
All right, I think we have direction, prepare stuff for next week. Thank you.
Okay. All right, the next agenda item is public comments. The North Kitsap School District Board of Directors welcomes the public to this open public meeting. In accordance with board policy and state law, board meetings must be conducted in a civil, orderly, and business-like manner. This means that whether we are school directors, staff, students, members of the community, or guests, we must all follow the same standards of civility during school board meetings. We value public comments. The purpose of public comments is so that the public has an opportunity to speak to the potential items on the agenda prior to board action and consideration. Speakers can sign up by following the procedure outlined in every published agenda, as well as being stated on the school district website. The sign-up process is intended to ensure that both in-person and virtual attendees have the same opportunity to sign up for public comment. Individual speakers are given 3 minutes for their comments. The board sets aside a maximum of 60 minutes tonight for public comment per meeting. There is no mechanism for a speaker to donate some or all their time to another speaker. The person who signed up to comment should be the same person who addresses the board. No speaker may speak more than once per meeting, even if there is time remaining. Please note that the board cannot engage in public discussion with the speaker during public comment to ensure compliance with the Open Public Meeting Act of the state of Washington. The board will not respond to statements, questions, or challenges made during the public comment period. There will be no back and forth dialogue. Please know that the board's silence is neutral. It is neither a signal of agreement nor disagreement with the speaker. The board may ask district staff to contact the speaker at a later time to follow up on issues raised during the public comment period. Finally, please remember that your words have impact and that you, not the district, are responsible for your words. We caution all speakers as possible that your statements could violate the rights of others under various laws, including laws protecting privacy, prohibiting defamation. If you're unsure of the legal effect of your remarks, you should seek legal independent advice prior to making public comments. When it's your turn to speak, please approach the podium if you're in person. If you're commenting via Zoom, you'll be promoted to panelists on Zoom. You must then turn on your video and microphone to make public comment. And the first public speaker this evening is Terry K. Day.
Am I all set? Can you hear me? Alright. Good evening, board members. My name is Terry Day. I was a classified district employee at North Kitsap for 15 years, and I retired in 2021. What has happened to our North Kitsap School District? In 2016, our previous superintendent received a vote of no confidence. In 2023, our current superintendent received a vote of no confidence and is currently on a leave of absence. Our recent bond measure failed to carry our community's vote of confidence in our school district's management. This difficult time is offering you space to place new steps of change. We need a cheerleader, a community liaison to get people engaged in our schools again, to want to fund our schools again. I am strongly encouraging you to explore new ideas to bring our citizens back into our schools and be proud of our school district. An example is a program I was involved with called Rolling Reader. This was an amazing program that hired high school students to earn college money for tutoring students who were struggling to read. I started in 2007 with Rolling Reader at one school. By 2014, it was operating at 4 elementary schools and 2 summer school programs. Adults volunteered from all parts of our community to tutor our children. 196 high school students earned over $90,000 to be paid directly to colleges for their tuition costs upon enrollment. 10,000 new books were gifted to hundreds of our children to encourage reading at home. Reading test scores improved and teachers loved the program. Rolling Reader operated for 8 years, bringing young adults and older members of our community into our schools so that they could be involved in helping our children and see firsthand the achievements of our teachers, staff, and schools. We earned the trust and goodwill in our community with an inclusive community program exclusive to our school district. And the cost? $300,000 over 8 years, 100% fully funded by grants and community donations. A penny dropped in the school budget ocean of over $105 million each year. So now, what ideas can you bring to earn back our trust and goodwill for our schools and our school district? The past is done. Move forward. Open doors. Implement new and positive ideas and lead us down a new and better path. Be the role models we and our children can be proud of. I'm leaving you with a Rolling Reader
Thank you. Sorry,
district
time's
report
expired.
and documents for you if you choose to review them, and thank you.
The next speaker is Lila McNamara.
My name is Lila McNamara. I am a current Running Start student from Kingston High School. While maintaining straight A's, I also volunteer for the Interact Key Club. I'm captain of the cheer team, I play softball, and I work over 30 hours a week. From a student's point of view, the superintendent and district do not adequately support Kingston High School. I urge each one of you, the board members, to permanently remove Lauren Evans as our superintendent and to take a closer look at the discrepancies between North Kitsap and Kingston High School. By the time I became a junior at Kingston, I knew I had to leave. The lack of classes, specifically in the art and science programs, limited my opportunities. By taking classes at Olympic College, I have more choices in my education. This year, according to high school staff, over 80 juniors and seniors at Kingston are no longer at the school. Each year, Kingston sees an increase in students leaving to participate in the Running Start program or transfer to North Kitsap. It's frustrating. At North Kitsap, the students know that all of the courses presented to them are available. This is not the case for Kingston. As an 8th grader who is ready for high school and excited to sign up for classes, I was disappointed that upon receiving the sheet from my counselor, over half the enlisted electives were not being offered. I encourage each one of you to go to Kingston High School for yourself and look at that list. As of this past year, Kingston High School offered 14 electives. North Kitsap offered 29. You are not providing an equitable learning environment for students. It is frustrating to watch this disparity carry over into extracurriculars. Students frequently transfer only based on athletics. And while this is not condoned by the district, I have watched many friends repeatedly transfer to North for this reason with seemingly no questions asked. Students will use the greater variety of classes as a reason to transfer, and the district accepts this. This depletes Kingston's numbers, resulting in our programs and our classes having less funding, which leads to more students transferring to North for the programs that Kingston does not offer. To clarify, the Kingston High School teachers, administrators, and principals are outstanding. They are doing the best they can in this demanding situation. This is a district level problem. Please end this cycle of inequity and bias. As an older sibling, captain, and upperclassman, I am expected to be someone who people can look up to. As a board member, the community looks up to you to make decisions in the best interest of our students. You have 2 immediate solutions: terminate the superintendent and create a more effective vetting process for transfer students. By keeping Lauren Evans in her current role, you are ignoring what is best for our schools and our community. You have lost the community's trust and are losing our trust, the students' trust. Thank you and go Bucks.
The next speaker is Ted Jess.
So thank you guys for allowing me to come and talk. I had actually written a letter that was going to address the problems that you discussed quite a bit. So I had submitted the letter. You're welcome to read it because I did want it to go down in the records, but I think a lot of that is a moot point if you carry on with this current trajectory. I would echo the sentiments that, in fact, there's a couple of things. So I'll start with my intro paragraph and then stop. So, policy updates. We have a tremendous opportunity for healing and growth. The time to make positive changes to NKSD operations has come upon us. The messages have been clear from district employee associations and the amazing community members we serve. District leadership supportive of past practice and school board operations must change. Our policy should reflect our values. And I'm going to stop there. Lauren Evans was not leading us down the right path. I think this has been acknowledged. I'm hearing from the board tonight that there is change on the way. One suggestion I would like to make is let's pull out that extra time for the long warning before public comment and do a land acknowledgement. So, honesty is important and leads to open communication and trusting relationships. That's been addressed by the previous speakers. We need to rebuild our trust. Our collective message has been clear. We have not felt listened to until tonight. There's a different atmosphere in the room tonight, and I want to acknowledge that. This atmosphere came in less than 2 weeks since the last vote. So thank you for addressing these issues. I'm saddened by the bond measure, but I think the percentage result that was returned is a giant scream from the community that things have to change. So NKEA continues to be a united voice directed toward making our district the greatest it can be for our students. There's a lot of work to do to repair, trust, and rebuild. It's time for bold, accountable, and child-centered leadership that puts NK in the headlines for our successes. We want to partner with the district and our community. We are hungry for collaboration with all who are dedicated and solutions oriented. We believe in the expertise and passion of our members and call on the board to bring us into the conversation. Please talk with us. Please listen. Please remember, it's about the kids. They're why we do this. A couple other notes in my last 5 seconds. Please note the changes from the letter I submitted to what I just presented. And for future meetings, when you recommended time for association presidents, please add to that or their representatives. Thank you.
The next speaker is Kim Gerlach.
Hi. Earlier today, I sent all of you a copy of the Kitsap County Sheriff's Deputy Incident Reports and the Kitsap County Prosecutor's charging documents. I ask you to make a decision now concerning the personnel matter with Laura Evans. This decision needs to be made tonight, not in 2 weeks at the next meeting, not in a month. It needs to be made tonight. The community needs to heal. The healing process won't begin until you all make the decision to either bring her back or terminate her. Those are the only two options I see. What I got in response from Mike Desmond was blah, blah, blah. And it says, because there is an ongoing investigation by law enforcement, our primary role now is to await the conclusion of that process. Once we have had all the facts, then we will determine what response, if any, is warranted based on those facts. We would ask the community members, we would ask members of the public for patience and understanding as we wait for the outcome of current investigation and process. Really? My response to Mike Desmond was, I'm asking you to be straight up. No more excuses. I've sent you the charging documents. The law enforcement investigation is over. It's over. The charging documents prove this. Now to all of you, if this charging document isn't enough to show you the law enforcement investigation is over, you'll never have enough information. Any one of you can make the decision here tonight to bring this matter to a vote. My suggestion to you as individuals, do the job you were elected to do, or step aside and let someone else who will have the integrity and honesty to truly put the students first. I've looked at your policy number 5281, grounds for disciplinary action or discharge. Malfeasance is one, we have that here. Misconduct, we certainly have that. Conduct, whether on the job or off the job, that has substantial negative impact on performance. Whoa boy, do we have that. Intemperance, we got that. Engaged in obstruction of justice, which includes witness intimidation, retaliation, destruction of evidence, or engaging in conduct to compromise an investigation or inquiry of misconduct, such as saying, I didn't do that, they framed me. Thank you.
The next speaker is Scott Hendon.
Good evening, I'm Scott Hendon. Last time I spoke, I asked you to look at a different road and pursue a different path, and I'm hopeful that what you have to say tonight, I agree with so many of those measures. I think they're going in the right direction. What I would say is, don't stop there. You as board members, you could have a community group, just a coffee with 6 people in your area. You could begin to stop meeting with the superintendent, so you're getting your answers answered in private. It happened when I was on the board. I quit doing it the last year and a half because I knew that we were talking about agenda items and we were rolling through that. It was a rolling quorum. Called the state and they said, yes, it's illegal. The security of that though is a suit. So don't stop now. I'm hopeful. Look at all the things that you could do that are open to the community, that are more forthright, more honest. And I had a different speech that I was going to give, but I'm not going to. Young lady, what a terrific job. I'm glad you didn't have to follow her.
The next speaker is Marcia Cutting. Marcia, if you could please turn on your video and unmute your microphone.
Oh, we can't hear? Or sound? Can you stop it?
If you can hold on for a second, we can't hear you.
She needs to check her sound. No, her sound is not on, it's her sound.
Yeah, we cannot hear you. If you could check and make sure your sound's working. I'm gonna go ahead and we'll just wait and we'll come back around to you at the end, if that's okay. Okay, thank you. The next speaker is Zahn Jacob Brown.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello to all the community and the school board members. Thank you for for listening to my words tonight. My name is Zan Jacob Brown, and I'm speaking not only as a parent of 2 former North Kitsap students and a grandparent of a future one, but also as a rabbinic guide of Pardes Jewish community. North Kitsap School District is in the midst of a mess, something we call a balagan in Yiddish. It comes for the term for a balcony in your house where all discarded, broken, and fragmented things tend to accumulate. An embarrassing mess that is squarely in the public eye. The good thing about a balagan is because it is in the open, it can be addressed, cleared out, and restored to a place where friends and community will want to gather. Superintendent Evans has created a balagan for our North Kitsap School District and community, an embarrassing and very public mess. She has lost the confidence of all 3 North Kitsap school unions, has led the district to a failed bond process and vote, has earned a historic statement of non-support for a bond measure from the Suquamish tribe. We have witnessed the clear-eyed, constructive, and powerful voices of members of many North Kitsap parents and community members, including those from the Latinx, Black, Indigenous, Asian, Jewish, Christian, and plain old European American communities, asking for transparency, for inclusion, for celebration of diversity, for protection from bullying and violence, voices that were sadly ignored again and again. Not only this, but she has recently set a terrible example for students who have learned not to steal or to bear false witness against your neighbor. As a faith leader and a member of a coalition of other Kitsap County faith and spiritual leaders, we're calling on you to join in a full-hearted process of truth-telling, of racial healing, and of transformation. This is a big ask and not an easy one. For the school board members for whom this is just too much to take on, we understand and ask you to step down and allow others who can commit to the process to take your place. Please know you're not alone. We, the community, are all here to support you in fixing this balagan. Now is the time to invite us in.
Okay. That would be great.
So Marcia, if you can hear me, we're gonna try again. So if you can turn on your camera and try to unmute again.
Well, we can hear through here. Technology problem.
Can we get a sound test?
It's coming through the laptop.
It's not feeding.
Right, it's coming from, who's casting? Okay. Okay, so if we're casting from here, I need to change your sound to my sound.
Yes. Yes. Okay, Marcia, can you hear me? Okay. Yeah, I think we should be good now if you want to go ahead and start.
Good evening, I am Dr. Marcia. I'm glad you've decided to record these meetings and post the video and audio. This is important because it has been made public that the meeting minutes are not always accurate. I appreciate the changes you have been discussing today and the different tone in the room. However, in reflecting on the last board meeting, I also want to say that as school board members, your primary duty is to the students of the district, not to the superintendent. Your secondary duty is to the taxpayers of the district, not to the superintendent. Part of your job as board members is to supervise the superintendent, not to follow her lead with blind loyalty. If any of you feel more loyalty to the superintendent than you do to the students and other residents of this district, I ask you to resign. The students and taxpayers deserve better. The teachers, paraeducators, and transportation staff have all said they deserve better. If any of you cannot do better, please resign. This district has been a complete dumpster fire lately, and the responsibility for that falls on you and on Superintendent Evans. If it wasn't obvious to any of you that she needed to be placed on leave after she was caught on video destroying campaign signs, please resign. How do you expect her to devote herself fully to her job while also preparing to defend herself against criminal charges? When people talk about the school to prison pipeline that we need to end, this isn't what they have in mind. Able and willing to hold her accountable. If any of you are not, please resign. Thank you.
Okay, the next speaker is Beth Novak. Corey, we should unmute that one.
Hi, my name is Beth Novak. I'm a parent of 2 boys at Suquamish Elementary. First, I want to thank you for listening to the community's request for more public comment times.
I'm sorry,
Oh, sorry.
we need to unmute the microphone.
We need you.
Go ahead, thank you.
So I'm a parent of 2 boys at Suquamish Elementary, and I want to thank you for listening to the community request for more public comment time and all the changes that you made at the beginning of the board meeting. It's a step in the right direction to have an interim superintendent that is actively listening and involved and attentive to the voices of parents in the community. Nevertheless, I have some serious concerns about the leadership dynamics within our school district, which was allowed during the superintendent's term, and the significant impact it has had on our staff, students, and community, as well as what this means for our district moving forward. Our family is new to the district this year, and it's been quite an eye-opener. While I've been impressed with the dedication of our school staff and teachers, we have some serious concerns about the district. I was so disappointed to see how this bond and its equity divided our community. It's a clear vote of no confidence by the public. Its failure is a clear vote of no confidence by the public for this leadership. This comes after teachers, classified staff, transportation unions all voted no confidence. While I'm committed to advocating for capital funding measures that address our district's needs, I am worried about the public's ability to gain future support without leadership changes. We have lost the trust of the public. The superintendent's alleged sign theft and the delayed statement from the board regarding the investigation, along with the board president's abstaining vote to place our superintendent on leave, have been deeply concerning. All of this has diverted attention from addressing pressing district needs. We need a board to take swift and decisive action. It's evident that maintaining the status quo
with the superintendent at the helm will only perpetuate mistrust in our district. There is no way she will be able to reunite our community. Importantly, under the superintendent's tenure, significant damage has been done to our district. Since her appointment, our out-of-transfer rates in our district have consistently exceeded 500 students annually. That's almost 2 elementary schools every year worth of students. Suquamish Elementary has had 5 principals in just 10 years. It seems clear this turnover is not due to students and staffing issues, but is indicative of a toxic administrative environment. We are losing qualified staff, and the continued loss of students and staff will leave our district depleted. Last year's call for meaningful changes to combat racism against the Latinx community and other marginalized groups have been ignored. Our children are witnessing and internalizing these events, resulting in detrimental impacts. The superintendent's legal issues are all a distraction for the real work that needs to take place in our district. We need to turn the focus back to our students, families, and staff. We are demanding real change, transparency, equity, and trust. I've emailed the suggestions for change as many others that have in the community, and I encourage you to take these recommendations seriously before it's too late for our district. Thank you.
Next speaker is Jeffrey Zeiger.
So I have a different take on the superintendent. The board's going to make a decision based on evidence. So previously I've presented evidence about learning and about how learning has been shown to work very effectively in a model called the democratic model of schooling. There are programs in North Kitsap that want to encourage kids to be independent learners. Well, in the democratic model, they recognize the people, excuse me. Children are born independent learners. In our top-down system that we've had for 200 plus years, it takes a toll on the children. The independent learning gets kind of squashed, and so by the time they leave in 12th grade, they're now dependent learners. If they've paid attention and followed the rules and did everything they're supposed to do. I can speak for myself, I was a dependent learner. So, Dr. Kristen Olson did a research project where she interviewed highly functioning people. And what she did was her thesis was that there was something in education that got them to their point of being highly functional. It turns out they were highly functional in spite of their education. She came up with what she called woundings by school in the top-down system. And some of the woundings that she identified were students believe they're not smart. They don't have what it takes to succeed in school and by implication life. They believe their ideas lack validity or value. They feel ashamed of themselves and their efforts, and they develop learned helplessness. Consider our homeless population. So, the democratic school empowers children. The top-down school essentially disempowers them. Not all of them, I mean, of course, people come out and do great things, like the high-functioning people that Kristen interviewed. Okay, so where am I going here? So about Dr. Evans. I think we oughta, she's got great skills on organization. She has connections with people. Put her in charge of creating a democratic school program for North Kitsap. Put her to work. You may have to pay her whether you let her go or not. So put her to work. It would be a way to, because you guys, the board, and her are in the light right now, in the public eye, it would be a way of changing it, of putting a positive spin for both of you. Democracy's in trouble, as the news media, I don't know if it was that week, I'm sorry. In a democratic school, children live democracy. They don't just learn about it, okay? One last quote, Einstein. Imagination is more important than knowledge. Knowledge is limited,
imagination encircles the world.
Thank you. The next speaker is Luis Danielle Casillo.
Hey, thanks for having us. Just wanted to remind you guys that we submitted 7 solutions last year, and we stand by those as a starting point for dialogue. One of them was to have community liaisons and representation from different parts of the community, and with those community liaisons, we potentially could have avoided what happened with the school bond and having it fail and missing important voices. Want to encourage you all to contact Christina Warwick from Kitsap Strong. Bremerton has a model where they have in-house restorative circle facilitators, and that's a great model. So you could bring in restorative facilitators, you could get together with different communities that have been harmed in the process of what Dr. Evans is leading us down a path of literal destruction, from family relationships to student relationships to community relationships. You have a chance to contact someone like Christina. If you're short on funding, I know the community would want to support restoration and healing, and so I don't think it's going to be a lack of funding that makes something like this happen. We can get the money. I can't personally give it to you guys, but I know we can find money to make things better in our district, and part of that's going to be healing between the school board, superintendent, whoever that's gonna be. Hopefully it's not Evans. I think if you bring her back, it's gonna be SH, really bad. So hopefully we're not bringing her back, and with the money you can save on not paying out her full contract, potentially we could have some arts classes at Kingston, or we could fund what's missing at North for arts. I know it's been really hard on Miss Gallant to travel between the middle school and the high school and to have all the extra burden. I've seen it. You have a teacher who's, battling family, deaths in the family, and she's stretched. It's not fair. So I'm sad we don't have Monica Lindy here this year. That would have been really helpful and beneficial, but we're short-staffed. And so instead of paying Lauren an exorbitant salary, let's do some good with the money. So that's all good.
Thank you. Okay, so that concludes this comment period. Next agenda item is superintendent report.
Cory, I think I was signed up.
Mrs. Davenport,
Yes, we have two
please provide
comment
your comments to the board.
There's now, and then at the end of the meeting, there's 2 comment periods.
Thank you. Again, it's I have an echo in back. Thank you. It's hard to go after hearing everybody talk, so I wrote my comments down so I wouldn't forget them in talking. I did want to thank all the community members for being here and caring about our district. And with that, I didn't want to lose sight of what you're saying, but I did want to share some amazing things that are going on in our district and some things that I got to see this week. First, I just wanted to acknowledge the frustration and pain that recent events have caused our community. And I'm sorry that when you think of our schools, it's that and not the incredible things that are actually going on every day inside of our schools. So although that we face challenges, there are some wonderful things happening. I wanted to recognize our staff for supporting our students and each other through this time. I had the privilege to walk this week and visit schools and see some amazing tributes to Black History Month. Our classified staff and certificated staff both participated in some just-in-time training, module 2 of a classroom culturally responsive teaching, staff-student relationships. Last week was School Counselor Appreciation Week. Our counselors work every single day with our students, and they are much appreciated. I wanted to say a special thank you. I learned this last week through both of our band, our secondary band music teachers, that both Bryce Adams and Tom Gunther have brought in a world-renowned music professor to work with our students on March 9th. It's going to culminate in a wind ensemble and symphonic band concert at 3 p.m. on the 9th, just down here at our auditorium. So if you don't have anything to do that day, it's an amazing opportunity for our students to be seen. I look forward to the future opportunities to better engage with our community on important topics that we all care deeply about. Thank you for your partnership and our alignment as we move forward together.
Okay, thank you. Next item is board reports. Does any board member have a report to share in regard to their assigned liaison position?
I do. So I'm representing North Kitsap at the Paulsville City Council meeting last night. And we have another board member who is on that committee. There's a few things that I thought you might want to be aware of. And one is they're going to have an Earth Day event that the Parks and Rec is supporting at the Biz Park on Saturday, April 20th. And they have lots of different activities planned. It's from 10 to 2 and it's free. And also, I think it's quite wonderful that they're adding to the play set at that park.
They won't do it, of
And by
course,
the
but
end of the
thank you
summer,
for at least
there's
saying
going to
it.
be an all, they call it play for all type of play set installed up there at Rat Park by the end of the year. I also met with Mayor Erickson 3 times during the last few weeks. She's a very strong supporter of public schools, and she's offered to join us. Her suggestion was to have family forums at each of the elementary schools, and she would join with us so we can get a chance to listen individually or in small group to kids and adults tell about what's special about their school. And I went to the auditor's entrance conference. It was very informative. The audit will be completed in May, by May.
Yeah, so I have a kind of a big ledge report, but before that, I want to take a minute, thank the staff. A lot of our folks have been doing a lot of hard work the last couple of weeks. Folks doing double duty, filling multiple jobs. Yeah, triple duty. Mike, Rachel, doing just amazing work. Doing some very hard work, Corey, and I'm just naming them because I know exactly what they've been doing, but it's been a lot of staff members. So I just want to make sure we take a moment to thank them for all the hard work they're doing. And while the comments tonight have been very positive, know that that's not always the case. So let's keep it positive and remember, they're working hard. Let's be nice. To Marcia, I apologize, I had to step out while you're doing your comment, so I will go back and watch the video to hear your whole comment. I'm sorry, I used that. So, ledge rep. So as you know, the legislative session is ongoing. I was gonna do a report, but then we passed the halfway point. A lot of bills fell off. They didn't make it out of committee, so instead I'm just gonna focus on a couple. I mentioned before, 2 weeks ago, I was down in Olympia, talked to some of our legislators. The 3 that I wanted to comment on specifically tonight, there's a lot that affect education, but 3 big ones. I'll start with the thing that we all know is near and dear to my heart, the gas-free electric vehicle bill. I'm not against electric vehicles, I promise. I'm against the mandate. But there's actually some really positive changes on this bill. They have removed the mandate. It has gone from a mandate bill to a suggest, support, and study, which so a lot of information now on tasks for the superintendent of public education to study what's out there, provide grants, provide support to districts that want to move to electric vehicles, gas or emission-free is the language they generally use. Focus the grants on districts that are primarily impacted by carbon emissions and have populations that are primarily low income, and of people of color, and there was another category I can't think off the top of my head. But focus it to the folks that wanna do it and need it, and rather than mandate it to everyone. They also, the latest version of the bill opens up the grants to not just purchasing the vehicles and provide a lot more flexibility to use it for infrastructure. So that was really positive. So that's a good news on that bill. And that is engrossed Second Senate House Bill 1368, if anyone wants to look. Another important one is Senate Bill 5882, which is a change to the prototypical funding model, which is an increase for, it says teaching aides, so pretty much paras, and office staff. So it would increase our ratio for funding for those classified staff. So that's good. I think originally it was just the suggestion was just give a raise to paras. That's how I heard it phrased when I was at Olympia. Now they're looking at increasing the ratio. So I think that's a better solution than just targeting one group for a raise. Now they'll put it in the model because that makes it sustainable. So another positive bill, again, that's 5882. And then the last one, a really positive one, which is engrossed Senate House Bill 2494. So this was what this started out as is, so WASDA encouraged us all to talk to our legislators about, ask for a budgetary increase on our MSOC. MSOC being our operating budget. So that is utilities, curriculum buys, insurance, all the things that are not salary. So that was part of our mission in Olympia, ask the legislators, and it was a one-time ask, just catch us up. Because what we were looking at is the inflationary index that they were gonna use. Mike told me before the meeting, but I've already forgotten, I think it's 3.6? 7, thank you. That was gonna be the increase. We all know inflation is much, much higher than that. So we're falling behind. Apparently they heard our message enough that one of the legislators actually quickly wrote a bill and put a bill in place to actually increase the ratios instead. So not only does this potentially get us money towards that part of our budget, it sets it as the new baseline for the years going forward. So that's an outstanding change. That bill has made it through the House and through halfway through the Senate. So hopefully that'll pass. And again, like I said, it sets a new baseline going forward and will really help us because a lot of our unfunded positions we still pay insurances on, and this will definitely help the bottom line. So really positive news out of Olympia on those fronts. And then I said there's a lot more bills, but we're not sure where all those are. We didn't have a ledger up meeting this week because WASDA wanted to have a chance to look at the budget came out on Monday. So they're looking at the budget, they'll dissect it and then give us an update next Monday. And then, last thing, they're already talking to us about legislative priorities. So Mike and Brandon remember this is a new thing for you all. This is every year where we sit down, we go through WASDA's 200 plus platform positions, and we as a board vote on what our 10 top priorities are, which leads it into General Assembly in September. I'm going to suggest, as your ledger rep, that we don't do that this year. I think that our bandwidth is better spent focusing on our district, and we don't worry about the priorities. I think WASDA will do fine without us contributing this year. And generally the priorities are what we are already looking at. That said, that means by the next time this comes around next year, I won't be here and you won't have a ledger rep that's done this before, but I'm planning for that. I will talk to our district area ledger reps, Denise Tracy in Central and Karen Bolton in Bremerton, and I will do my best to get them to commit to coming and giving you training on this process for the four of you and whomever is here in my place. So I won't leave you hanging, but I'm gonna suggest, and let me know if you disagree, but like I said, I just think our bandwidth is better, our time is better spent on other things right now. And that can be an unwieldy process, because I said there are 200 plus positions to go through and decide what we wanna push. And generally we always come up with the same answers: money, training, safety. So Maybe we can let the other 294 districts carry that load this year. That's just my suggestion. That's my report.
Well, this has been, I swore in on December 14th, and here we are. Throughout February, we faced a variety of challenges that have tested our resilience and adaptability. I too want to thank our district staff that have all been pulling hours and dual duties and doing the hard things. I so appreciate that. I've gone from being a student of this district, a parent of this district, and now a board member of this district. I'm not sure if y'all can tell. This is important to me. What our community, what we uphold is our kids and our education. I've always been proud to come out of North Kitsap School District. It will continue to be one of my highlights that I am able to be a part of, and I'm so grateful for that. Rick mentioned tonight, I worked hard to get here, and that's so true. So thank you all for the learning together, because we need it right now. At any rate, despite these challenges, I do remain committed to fostering a supportive partnership with both Suquamish and Port Gamble-Squamish tribes as a tribal liaison. I spoke with Tony Jones at Port Gamble, Career and Education Department Director, and requested guidance on setting up meetings with her department, and she indicated that I might email both her and Brenda Guerrero at Suquamish and set up an opportunity for the three of us to meet, so I'll be reaching out to both of them to coordinate this informal introduction meeting, and I feel bad that hasn't happened already, but the bandwidth issue has been real. I appreciate the ideas we've talked about tonight. I think it'll give me more time. I'm feeling the pressure to get here from work, so I so appreciate it. Meeting agendas are being worked out. For one, the April 11th meeting with Suquamish Tribe to host the government-to-government meeting, as well as a setting one up with Port Gamble. So more information to come on the agendas as those are updated. I have registered for a virtual WASDA training next week titled Advancing Inclusion Through Belonging. And I'm looking forward to getting signed up for OASD training, consultation training that will take place in SQUIM April 30th and May 1st. More coming on that, so I'll be looking out for those emails. I'm interested in how this school district tribal consultation training will compare with the ones I've previously been a part of facilitating within other government agency settings, such as the U.S. Department of Agriculture and DSHS. This is not an area that is unfamiliar to me, so I'm looking forward to just learning more and building on that. Looking ahead, I remain committed to prioritizing open communication with both tribes while working to collaboratively uphold the mission and values of the school district that I so hold near and dear.
And I'm just gonna kind of piggyback on what they said. First, Rick, I want to thank you for all your work as ledge rep. I know that is a heavy lift, and you're doing an outstanding job in keeping us in the loop and attending a lot of meetings, and it is greatly appreciated, your service and what you do, all of you. And I want to second a thank you to all the staff, the district, to all, in the buildings, all the great work, and I think Rachel said it really well, that there is great work that is going on every day, and we do see that, and I am so, so thankful for that, and for the dedication and hard work. And I really appreciate the reports tonight, the sharing, the honesty, and I as well, I feel that there is a lot of opportunity that we have, and it is a decision that we need to make and how we move forward and how we rebuild. And I'm looking forward to connecting and continuing this communication. And I think, we do receive all the emails, and it is greatly appreciated, because I know it takes a great amount of time to send the emails, to share, and those are all read. And I just want to thank the community, Cause I do truly believe that the more people we have that are paying attention, that are caring, the stronger we will be for it, so. That is, and KCAC will be next month, I will attend, and, I'm looking forward, we have some upcoming school, visits that we'll do, so, that's all.
And then I'm excited, I met with the audit team this week, so again, from the audit team, that audit will be going on. If you have any questions, if you wanna forward it to me, or if you wanna meet with the audit team, they're definitely looking forward to that, but thank you for also attending too.
Yeah, I was hoping to have an update. Our last audit, we had heard from Executive Director Tim Garshall of WASDA. At WASDA, there was a potential retroactive fix for the last audit statewide. Before our last meeting, I'd asked him if he had an update, because he had actually gone back to DC and met with the FCC about that greater issue. Hasn't provided an update yet, so I can't really commit that it goes away. But just as a general, when it came to ESSER funds, essentially 49 states did it one way and Washington did it a different way. And all the findings in the country on handling ESSER funds when it came to that were in the state of Washington. So they are attempting to negotiate a discussion with the FCC. And so hopefully you'll have good news for us soon, but they are looking to try to resolve that, because it comes down to we have an elected independent state auditor, and that's unique. And all the districts that got findings out of that audit cycle were essentially the same thing, and no other state got findings. So more news to come on that, but hopefully that'll be retroactively resolved.
Okay, thank you. Next agenda item is student representative reports. Do either student representatives have a report they would like to share with the board? I know, Laura, you're online. Do you have anything?
She's raising her hand.
Okay, yeah, just go ahead and unmute. Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, so I just wanted to apologize to everyone that I had to leave the meeting early, but I appreciate everyone's understanding that I'm able to stay on Zoom. Like so many of the students in addition to after struggle work and sports and academics, but I'm grateful to have my position as student rep on this board and the opportunity that I have to represent the students of North Kitsap High School. So for my report, there weren't any comments in the questions or suggestion box this week, but I did want to remind students that the box is located at the front entrance of the school by the table near the main office. And as far as sports, our winter sports are ending, and boys swim, dive, and wrestling take place as teams at state, and gymnastics and basketball will be competing at state this weekend. Chess won regional championships, and they're heading to state soon as well. And all state for choir and band happened this past weekend, and NK was able to send students for both. These next couple weeks, Olympic college meetings will be happening regarding STEM, cosmetology, and students interested in running start for next year. And then as far as other choir and band announcements, there's a choir concert on March 11th, a band concert on March 20th, and a choir jazz night on March 16th. Our winter formal is on March 9th, and the theme is See the Light, which is kind of a twist on the Table movie. And Care Week is March 4th through 8th, and the theme is focusing on substance abuse. The Principal Advisory Committee is now meeting every 2 weeks, and they're really addressing issues on drug use and working on redefining and reintroducing care management. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Can I read?
Yeah. Yep, go ahead.
Okay, and Noah, also, he had to step out, and, this will also be submitted, we'll email it so it can be attached, but I did wanna read his, report. So number one, he says, during the school board meeting with the tribes, one of the main talking points was to include location-specific land acknowledgements for each location in the district. I am not aware of any updates on this, and I believe that it is an important issue that should be put back on your to-do list. Number 2, he says student advisory votes would be a step in the right direction to making this position less futile. I am 100% in favor. So I think these are, I mean, again, I just very much, I think we all do appreciate the student input, and this will be added on to our minutes, so I think it's something to take note of.
Okay, next action item is the action portion of the agenda, 9.1 consent agenda. So this is for items 9.1.1 through 9.1.8. Motion is needed to approve the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Can I have a question about one of them? Can it be after?
We would need to.
Discussion. I'll move.
Okay, so I have a motion to discuss the consent agenda. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, those in favor? Okay. I'm sorry, you wanted to discuss the consent agenda?
Ben.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask about the new courses that are being offered at the high school. And I just had a few questions that I thought maybe someone on the staff could answer. First of all, I want to say it's great that we have so many high school staff members that are willing and able to teach a wide variety of electives. What can a student do if the elective they want is at Kingston and they are enrolled at North? Is one of my questions. And what is the minimum enrollment for a class to happen? And how much time does the staff have to prepare to teach that class?
So I'm gonna have Craig Berry and come on up. He's our secondary director, and while I can answer the questions, it's probably it's more prudent that the person behind the work answers those questions. The one around staffing, because I'm still in the HR role, I can answer the numbers for the class. So it depends on the class. And so CTE classes are staffed and provided to us from the state at a different staff to teacher or student to teacher ratio. And so you can run CTE classes and some elective classes at a lower ratio and not take a hit on any type of funding. For BEA funding, the staffing ratio is a lot higher. To be able to run program, when we're looking at the difference between both Kingston Middle and Kingston High School as very small secondary schools, in comparison with North Kitsap High School and Poulsbo Middle School, a little bit larger secondary schools. To be able to run program and have more electives, we have to staff those buildings at a higher level of teacher than we would at North Kitsap, just by default of North Kitsap being twice the size of Kingston High School. Sorry, and then your question around how do students, if you're at Kingston High School or if you're at North Kitsap High School and you want to take an amazing new class, which is actually in the course proposal right now, how can a student do that, Craig?
So we do allow students the choice to either transfer fully to that school, or we can have shared students. And so when the schools are building their master schedules, they've identified what the program of interest is from the other side of the school, and they place those as best they can in the morning, so that students can access those classes at the other school in the morning and to be able to transfer back in the afternoon to their school of residence, so that they finish the day there. And that's the way we've been able to help those students who need transportation in order to access it. And it also helps us in balancing out the schedules for the rest of the day. So that's how we've worked it.
So how much time does staff have to prepare for these?
So many of these classes are done in conjunction. John does a lot of work with CTE, working on pathways for kids, so that's, most of these classes are for that purpose. And so he, along with the teacher and the principal, they've been working on these things for a couple of years in planning, also taking in the interests of kids and seeing what is available and also what the state has already approved, and working with this CTE consortium to have these classes available. So it's a partnership with identifying staff, and then also if we don't have the staff, we will look for somebody, to teach these classes.
Thank you.
Welcome.
We've been allowing that to transfer half day for, quite a few years, actually.
Okay, so I'm gonna, all right, so a motion has been made and seconded for the consent agenda, so all in favor of the motion?
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. Okay, the motion passes with a vote of 5-4 and 0 against. The next item is management reports. The management reports will be turned over to Rachel Davenport and staff to answer any questions the board has regarding the material provided.
Mike Merlino, put together budget status reports. Are there any questions from the board around our budget status report?
No.
Any questions?
I did just wanna mention that I appreciate in reviewing the conservative enrollment estimate and budget, because it really has paid off for us. And, you can note that in the budget, packet, so that was all, because I appreciate that, system of how that's being done. I know Mike explained before it was conservative, and I think that's the right way to do it.
Our next management report is the school calendar recommendation. I see a couple of board members already smiling, so, is there any, questions or discussion around this one?
I'll hold fire.
Nope.
I'll let everybody else go first.
Craig Berry, why don't you go ahead and come on back up since he's calendar committee.
Well, I just had one, I wanted to make sure I was, reading it correctly, that the committee was recommending draft 2. Is that what everyone else understood from? Yes, okay, and I just, cause I know the committee, did we have a representative from every group that was served on the committee, do we know?
Yes, Ted Jez was on our committee. You're gonna put me on the spot, I don't remember her name. Haley Moore from PSE was part of the committee. Josh Emmons from the Principal Association was part of the committee. Myself and Jen Markarian facilitated. Am I missing somebody? Oh, and we had a couple teachers. So we had an elementary teacher representative, and then we had a secondary teacher representative also.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, and so the other question I had was, I understand that staff had the opportunity to give input. What was their most popular choice?
Was the second one, the starting on Tuesday after Labor Day. So we gave them 3, we surveyed with 3, these are the 2 that had the most interest. The second one had overwhelmingly the most interest. Okay, well that's the recommendation I'm giving you.
Okay, so I'm really curious to why this time around that's the schedule that got recommended. Because as and you know this has been my thing for years, every reason that I've been given for 6.5 years of calendars, every academic, every social emotional learning, every reason has always supported starting before Labor Day. So I wanna know what shifted this year. You know, testing, slow start for the littles, especially when everybody just supported before.
So, the feeling, we didn't ask for like a narrative for people to give us their exact reason. I think it has a lot to looking at, this one has embedded, snow days, and then looking at that the final day, right before the 19th, which is fairly new federal holiday that we put in our calendars. That's what made the change. On different calendars, we had 3 built-in snow days. When we did this one, we got to have an option that started after Labor Day and ended before the Juneteenth holiday. And I think that people appreciated, more than starting before Labor Day for 3 days and getting out closer to, I think, the 15th, or it was the 15th or the 16th, because we were able to add an additional snow day in there, and we had snow, I don't remember, weeks go by, we had snow recently, so we will not be going to school on Monday, this year.
Alright, well, I'm not sure it's gonna be a surprise anyway, it's been around for a while, but short of anybody giving me academic reasons to start after Labor Day, because I've been hearing them for years, it's better for testing, it's better to start 3, 4, 5 week for the little kids and for the special ed. If you can't give me academic reasons, I'm still gonna vote for the first one, so.
Well, I
just
just
let
have
you
a
know.
personal opinion about that.
Yep.
Is having been a teacher for many, many years, I labored every Labor Day to get my room ready and get all the extra things you have to do when you teach kindergarten through 3rd grade. And I would be very nervous about having to get that all done and ready for the first day of school in August. It's always much better for me, and most of the people in the community think of school starting in September.
Well, but as a parent of a kid with a special ed child, sending them to school 3 days, 4 days, 5 days is an easier transition out of the summer. So like I said, there's arguments to be made on both sides of this, and I have heard the same arguments for 6 years. It's an easier start on the little kids, it's an easier start on special ed. For AP testing and state testing are set dates, and the earlier we start, the more days of education happen before the tests. The one that I threw into the equation early on is the earlier we get out of school, we beat the other districts, and our kids get to get jobs before the rest of the kids do. So that's just me, you know. But like I said, to me, I have not been given a reason yet to say start after Labor Day that academically makes me comfortable. So I'm comfortable voting in the minority, and so I will do so again if that's the case. But like I said, this is just a management report, it's not the vote. If you can convince me before the vote, great, but I'm going to stick with the same way I have voted for the last 6 years. So.
Can I chime in something as a representative from the calendar committee? We had a lot of discussion. One of us pushed pretty highly to have the school board reinvestigate the use of waiver days as we used to in the past, which would allow, it requires the school board to make the request from the state. But in the event of the snow days, it could change things a lot in the end date, because later into June or July, if you're CK last year, or whatever it ends up being, is a hardship on families. Another thing that we would like to consider or investigate more is the use of our technology and having pre-planned inclement weather activities that are done remotely with some flexibility to accommodate for families that have lost power or something like that. So we feel like there's more opportunities, but currently within the constraints that we have, the calendars we presented, number 2 was the one that was surveyed. We'd also like to start investigating a little bit sooner and solicit more feedback from staff prior, and hoping that we can change our form to get some of that feedback so we can mentally process it before we start our meetings next year.
I will say, Rick, my informal survey of every parent I've ever talked to, every time we start school before Labor Day, I've heard a lot of consensus around the fact that it's just difficult to go for those couple days. So I love your other side of that, but I've heard from parents ad nauseum about the difficulties that presents, and the opposite problem of transitioning is hard when you only go a day or two, and then you have a long weekend, and it sets the teacher up for restarting, sort of. Also in the social services programs I've worked before, attendance was an issue because kids just didn't attend, and it starts you off on the wrong foot when they will not attend for whatever reason that might be that first day or two. It's difficult because we're not able yet to do that outreach to get everyone there.
So I've dealt with a lot of family intervention around that, because now we already start off in a negative with going into the school year with absences, and absenteeism, as we know, is a huge impact on their education. So I totally appreciate both sides of that. That's my informal survey. I bring to you.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Next report is in-district transfer restrictions. Are there any questions on our restrictions for in-district transfer? All right. And our last report is the purchase of school buses. Any questions or comments on this report?
No, yes, no, they're all diesel.
Okay.
It was a joke.
Why? Why?
Why? Because we don't have a grant to buy more electric buses, and they cost 3 times as much as diesel.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. So that concludes management report. The next agenda item is public comment. The next public speaker will be Carissa Burke.
She's on Zoom. She pulled her.
Okay, go and start. Thank you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Sorry, I had to change locations, now I'm outside. My name is Carissa Burke. In the written comment that I submitted to you guys earlier about how before returning home to Paul School, I served on a school board in Oregon for 3 years immediately following a major crisis with our director after he was accused of a crime. The situation I lived through there parallels a lot of what is happening in North Kitsap in really eerie ways, and so I'm hoping that you guys will consider learning from the lessons that I learned on that school board. Like North Kitsap, following this incident, we had a lot of angry parents, but the board took strategic actions, moved to a place where they are now thriving in post-crisis. One of the major things they did was adjust meetings to prioritize input from the community, and I really appreciate the discussion that has happened tonight on changes that you guys are considering on that by moving the meetings earlier. They moved to 6:30. The period for signing up for public comment that they give is from the time when they post the agenda to roughly 5 minutes before the start of the meeting. They decided that anyone who signed up to speak to the board and to take the time out of their day to go and sit through a meeting was worth 3 minutes of their time. And I agree with Beth that an hour just isn't enough time. And I hope that you guys, when you vote on how you're gonna handle that, will consider opening up the comment period or the sign-up period wider. And then if you find yourselves overwhelmed, consider narrowing it back down. But I'm not sure I think giving an hour is really going to have a very large impact on making it more accessible for people to sign up. Another thing that the board did was they added an additional at-large member spot. Into that new member spot, we appointed an extremely qualified Latina woman in order to make sure that we had balance and diversity of thought on our board, because the best boards include qualified people with lots of different perspectives and backgrounds who look like the community that they serve. And our board also started new committees. Notable for us is we started a policy review committee that reviewed and updated our policies and procedures, but I think North Kitsap, in addition to this, would do well to establish an equity and inclusion committee to address concerns that the Latinx and BIPOC communities have been attempting to bring to the board over and over and over again for more than a year now. One other thing that we did that I did not include in my written comment that I sent to you earlier was that we decided to part ways with the director prior to the conclusion of the investigation. It was necessary for our community to move on, and I would encourage you that you don't need to wait for the end of the trial to decide to let her go. I think that she has lost trust with the staff and the parents and the community, and regardless of the outcome of the trial, she's not going to be able to be successful as the superintendent of North Kitsap, and I think that's a discussion that the board should be having, regardless of whether or not there's criminal liability. While guarding our families and our staff through this crisis moment was really hard, and there were some board members who didn't feel up to the task because they didn't sign up for crisis management. They left, but then instead of seeing these parents who were upset as adversaries, the board welcomed these newly activated parents who joined the board. They picked up slack, they built new communities, and importantly, because of that, they built lost trust. And I hope that the Zooming.
Sorry, your time is expired.
Okay, thank you. I can't see the timer.
Okay, next public speaker is Chris Frazier.
Hello, my name is Chris Fraser, and I've taught math at Paulsboro Middle since 2002, except for the 6 years that I was NK president during the prior 2 superintendents. I care deeply about NKSD, and I'm committed to NK being a great place to live and learn. I'm speaking to you today as an individual and not in any capacity related to NKA or Teachers Union. First, I just want to thank you for making the changes to how the public engages with you at meetings and for recorded meetings. Yay! I love it. My comments are really more about your work outside or between meetings. And so during my time as NK president, I attended nearly every board meeting in full and had a multitude of interactions with board directors at that time. So this is like 6 years, running. The board directors would meet with me outside of board meetings, they visited schools, they held coffee chats, and truly engaged with constituents and stakeholders. It has felt for a very long time that you as board directors must have been told that it would be best if you didn't have conversations with stakeholders, parents, staff, community members, and relied solely on the superintendent for information and guidance. There's been some emails, there was a meeting in Bellevue that was recorded that I watched, and then just stories and accounts I've heard from colleagues. It's clear to me from that the superintendent essentially walled you off from really important information and imposed a chain of command and communication structure that did in fact isolate you from a lot of information from a community that would help you have a better understanding. This makes me so incredibly sad for you, for our district, and for our community. I have empathy for each of you because you seem to have been unaware that the restrictions that were imposed are not only not required by OPMA, they are at odds with your ability to perform your most essential function as the evaluator and employer, the boss of the superintendent. School boards exist in part to act as a check and balance to the superintendent. I do understand that you don't know what you don't know. How can you have a full picture of the myriad of issues in our district and the concerns of your constituents if you aren't allowed to interact with us? I'm so encouraged by your discussion today. I love hearing your voices. I would urge you to do more in your efforts to be the best board you can be. We need you to be effective and responsive now more than ever. Participate in OPMA training, which is required by law. Learn about serial meetings specifically. Attend school board meetings in neighboring districts. Bainbridge Island and CK are great. I'm hearing some of you have been doing that. That's awesome. Reach out to your fellow school board directors in neighboring districts. Make yourselves available. Consider coffee chats. Carefully examine communication protocols and make changes. Let's make lemonade out of lemons and move forward in a positive direction. It's time to scale up. We're counting on you.
The next speaker is Terry Schumacher.
Good evening, members of the board and audience. I want to thank our student representatives for their excellent work and commitment You both give thoughtful reports, and though we might not be present, we are listening. Alari's sharing student comment that the drama students have to pay for the auditorium use is insightful. During my son's years, we were often there, but never with my daughter. The fact that we are pricing our students out of the very facility that we built for them needs to change. Noah, calling attention to Character Strong not being an adequate SEL program is vital during our mental health crisis our nation is facing. I hope the leadership responded swiftly. You are the first person I've heard in the front of this room with the courage to say that racism is a problem in your school. We know that from the outcry of the community that this is true. Thank you both. You are a voice of your peers, and you set a shining example for the adults in the room. We know racism is a problem in our community. Our Latinx members tried to make you see that. Sadly, as leaders, you reduced them to one voice, refusing to attend a crowded meeting, nor attend the rally that happened just outside these very doors. When you announced to the Skolem tribe that you canceled the Native American honoring ceremony, you had a month to reconsider, listen to the pain and outcry of the community before notifying the Suquamish tribe. Your excuse was budget cuts. You had an obligation to request the expense report from the previous years. I hold the record request showing the expense is less than what we spend for the superintendent's yearly Rotary membership. It took media shaming across the state before you relented. The failure of this bond is a direct result of your unwillingness to listen and engage. The pain of this bond brought to our community was heartbreaking. It was voiced at presentations, newspapers, social media, and opposed by groups. Despite this, you remained steadfast and silent. At any moment, you could have addressed concerns in a board meeting or at a special meeting. We elected you for your expertise. Each of you has an obligation as a public servant to serve. We are depending on you to be strong leaders, initiating difficult conversations, and to hold each other accountable. You must write a bond that North Kitsap can enthusiastically support. I look forward to the next one being formed hand in hand with the community. Thank you.
The next speaker is Stacy Schmeckel.
Good evening, elected officials and interim superintendent Davenport. I'm very grateful for your study session tonight. I appreciated your discussion and thoughtfulness. But could Corey also receive signups by phone for public comments? That used to happen. I started attending North Kitsap school board meetings about 11 years ago. Things have drastically changed, and not for the better. WASDA standards for individual school directors has 6 areas. I'd like to read them to you. It seems you're not familiar. Standard number 1 has values and ethical behavior. Placement of students' needs first. Demonstrate commitment to equity and high standards of achievement for each student. Commit to treating each individual with dignity and respect. Model high ethical standards. Advocate for public education. And standard number 3 I'd also like to read. It's on communication. Building and maintaining positive connections with community and staff. Communicating accurately and honestly with awareness of the impact of your words and actions. Listening carefully and with an open mind. Maintaining civility and treating all people with respect and dignity. Reinforcing people with needs or concerns, referring people with needs or concerns to appropriate staff. Maintaining confidentiality of appropriate matters. And welcoming family, students, staff, and community input. Before Superintendent Evans, previously Superintendent Page, held coffee roundtables. It was so nice to know the superintendent was willing to engage with our other stakeholders. Ending these roundtables where she met in coffee shops, in restaurants to engage in discussions with the community members came at a great opportunity cost. Another opportunity cost is the end of the board's coffee chats. They also were willing to meet with us individually in groups of 1 or 2. After school board meetings, they'd come out for mashed potatoes with us at Tisley's. I miss that. Mr. Eckert, you shared on November 17th at the special meeting in Bellevue the need that you feel the board has to be available for appeals. While I appreciate that understanding of the potential, I believe that's less likely than the need for your stakeholders to be heard. The board used to allow all who wanted to give public comment, and that met the procedure requirements to be heard. There was a 3-minute limit, but I have to tell you, if a student was there, they gave an exception. If somebody was struggling, or they needed just a few extra seconds to finish what they were saying, you were gracious. That is now lacking. That big loud buzzer that used to happen, ooh man. Communication has really suffered with your current procedures. I may have emailed all of you on February 6th, and no one has responded to me. President Desmond, did you extend the superintendent's contract?
I'm sorry,
Did you
time
meet
is
the
up. Thank you.
requirements that were required? Because you haven't responded to me.
The next speaker is Claire Menard.
What did he show me?
It's in person.
Okay. Claire Menard, are you here? Okay, thank you. Next speaker is Natasha Pecto-Minger.
I have the ones in the overflow rooms.
I'm sorry, hi, thank you, thanks for, I didn't realize that's how it works.
Yep,
I do wanna thank you. Is it me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, sorry, I apologize. I do wanna thank you for the opportunity to come via Zoom because I couldn't be there in person tonight. And I wanna thank you for expanding the public comment portion of our meeting. My hope is that this is not just a simple reaction to the current situation, and that instead it's an intentional shift as a response to the request. And after listening to the discussion and conversation, I also feel very hopeful. I wish I was there to share in what sounds like a much more gracious evening. So I campaigned with some of you, I spoke with most of you, and it is clear to me that most of you value teachers and that you want what is best for our students. I do not envy the predicament that you are in, but I want you to remember exactly who it is that has put us in this tenuous situation. And that is Lauren Evans, the superintendent of our school district. She has behaved in a way that is unacceptable. I will agree that due process is important, and I will let the courts deal with the criminal aspects of this case, but that's not why we're here, and I think we all know that. Regardless of whether she is guilty or innocent, her reputation in our district is one of untrustworthiness. I think you've heard us loud and clear. She cannot repair what has been broken. I understand that you probably all feel very scrutinized and that each of your decisions and actions is judged. But when you asked for our vote, you asked for us to put you in a position of power, and you gave everyone permission to have a public opinion of you. We are watching. And I was so grateful to hear that student speak from the Kingston perspective, and I'm not there, and I wanna thank her. Her words were eloquent and impactful. But we have been speaking to you for more than a year, and it's sad that it takes a crisis for you to hear us. Now that you're listening, please listen closely. During the last several years, you've allowed Lauren to put herself in a position of constant triangulation. There's a policy that says you cannot speak to staff and then you can't speak to you. This breaks the very very nature of the democratic process in our community and creates a toxic amount of gossip, speculation, and rumor. This is the tipping point. I've listened to the meetings. I hope you can see the damage that has been done. You are not 20% her boss, you are 100% servants of the members of our school district, our students, and our students' live-in families. I know that the frenzy will pass, and I hope that you can rebuild the trust and right the wrongs and provide outstanding, innovative, and exciting educational opportunities in North Kitsap. We all
Thank you, your time is up. Okay, thank you. The next speaker is Kimi Kinoshita.
Make sure we're all running for you.
Run.
Corey, it should be my name that you would bring up, because I'm signed in as me. So that's what you would elevate to speaker.
Is this the karaoke bar?
Yes.
You got any Bon Jovi for us?
Might seem like it, might seem like it. Not supposed to be.
Do you remember when the lady at the girl came?
If it was karaoke, there's no way I'd be like.
But do you remember the girl that was saying her public comment?
Thank you for this opportunity to.
I'm gonna turn your video on.
You don't have to do that. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to you and thank you for your service. While I live on Bainbridge Island, I have deep roots here, cultivated over many years while volunteering at Second Season, weeding at the Paulsbo Cemetery, building trails at Fish Park, working with students at Suquamish Elementary School, pounding nails and painting walls at Coffee Oasis, handing out free books for young children in English and Spanish to parents at Fishline and others. As a retired educator, I'm deeply devoted to public education and what it means to students, their parents, and the broader community. Public education is the cornerstone of our democracy. It is within our schools we honor and model the bedrock principles of what we believe in as Americans. We value the rights of all students to pursue their dreams with knowledge and skills that are taught. Students absorb, apply, and shape their own ideas only in spaces that are safe. And the differences in language, culture, gender identity, and religious beliefs of students are respected. The diversity in students enrich and expand experiences for all, nurturing compassion. It should be an honor for you to be entrusted to safeguard the quality education that every student deserves. No one expects you to perform miracles. However, the public rightfully expects you to work like a member of a team that really cares about the outcomes for every child in all areas, intellectual, social, and emotional. No team can be successful without including parents in their children's education, nor can it be accomplished without regular and valuable input from your teachers and support staff. As a child of immigrant farmers from Japan, with neither parents speaking English well and with no formal education beyond 8th grade, my parents toiled as laborers. My father was a gardener and my mother spray painted doll faces until she advanced to sewing in the sweatshops of the garment district in LA. Both of them worked from sunup to sundown. We were poor, but I was never hungry. But my personal story is not unique. It was then and still it is my belief that education should be the pathway to the American dream for all. I am eternally grateful to the collective legacy of caring teachers, principals, and board members who allowed me to become a teacher who loved teaching for 30 years in public schools. Board, you are fortunate to have this outpouring of able parents, teachers, staff, and community members ready to work in good faith with you to chart a course forward.
Imagine all this for the love of students and a brighter future for all. In community, let's be the dream keepers. Thank
The next one, Sarah, is I'm not having her on Zoom.
Okay, and just to confirm, Sarah Hewson, are you here in the boardroom? Okay, we'll move on to the next speaker, which is Carolyn Zimmer.
She's on.
Yes, she is. I'm promoting her right now.
Carolyn, if you could turn on your camera and go ahead and unmute, you can begin.
Okay. Thank you for the. Can you hear me? It sounds like I'm echoing.
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. Thank you for the extra time tonight. I think that's a big improvement. I sent you, the board, a very long email earlier today because I wanted my comments to become part of the record. Now that you are recording, I hope you continue to record, because prior to that, everybody's comments, speaking comments, were lost. They were not recorded. The transcripts, the minutes of people speaking were, and probably still will be, very inadequate, because by law you're not required to put the actual words. But the average speaker last time spoke maybe 400 to 500 words, and the report in your minutes of those speakers was 9 to 15 words, and often inadequate and inaccurate. So I want to tell speakers tonight, if they're still listening, that as well as speaking, they really should send in by email their comments so they can become part of the record. I don't really need to cover many of the things that I wrote you about, but I'll just go over the 5 points I started with. And that was the minutes are inadequate and inaccurate as far as the speakers are concerned. So I don't know if that, by law, you don't really need to put much on the minutes. The meeting should be recorded, and thank you for doing that. I hope you continue to do that. The other thing is, when I've been there in person, the audience can't hear what you're saying much of the time because you don't speak into the microphone. And so I don't know if that's happening tonight, but I would encourage you to make sure that you can be heard, and maybe move the podium to a different location in the room so it doesn't block the view of people that are attending. And thank you for changing the time to a later time for those parents, and also changing the ability to sign up for comment. I hope I see improvements like this to continue, and there were so many good comments. I hope you listened to them all. And I really have to agree with almost every other speaker that you really need to get rid of Lauren Evans. I'm hearing your voices for the first time. It's like you're acting like bosses, and you are bosses. You are a boss of the superintendent, and so please continue to do that. Thank you.
The next speaker is, and I apologize for the pronunciation, Mindy Belohiba Rovira.
Disclaimer, 90% of these questions are for the old school board members, not the new ones. Do you know the definition of impunity? What is your board more guilty of, complacency, complicity, or cronyism? Pop quiz. If I had a map, could you locate Suquamish Elementary on it? If a student gets caught stealing NKSD property, can they dial the superintendent for help?
Is it okay for NKSD students to lie to authorities now? Why don't teachers and other NKSD employees in this district, A, feel like you care about them, and B, like you? What's my evidence? Multiple votes of no confidence. Why don't you prioritize making these public meetings accessible to deaf and hearing impaired community members? I recommend using Robert rules for your meetings. It's very helpful. What will it look like when you care about eradicating bigotry in your schools as much as you care about limiting public comment in these meetings? Why would a community member recently suggest to me that we needed to, quote, follow the school board meeting rules so as to not endanger the vote on an upcoming student field trip? That was before last meeting. How many acts of bullying and retaliation against teachers and other NKSD personnel took place on y'all's watch? How many innocent students were harmed because of the culture of silence that has been created under this board and the superintendent at all levels in this district? This is for recall purposes. How many times have y'all or the superintendent called the Poulsbo police on someone who is properly exercising their First Amendment rights in or around this building? This is for all of you. How many of you have read the public comments submitted by email for the last school board meeting? There were 17. Do you have any money in the budget to pay the beautiful women who record and make these supposedly public meetings accessible pursuant to HB 1210? What about that bond vote, eh? Do you agree with the statement that a superintendent who allows bigotry in her schools without any serious attempt to address it is condoning it? Do you agree that in effect, she is leaving the school district vulnerable to federal civil rights lawsuits? Do you know that the Suquamish and the Port Gamble-Scalum tribes predate NKSD and its authority? Is it possible for you to listen to public comments without watching the 3-minute timer? What does respect in NKSD look, sound, and feel like? I am sorry that you're going to have to fire your friend, but her scandal is literally impacting your political futures now. Thank you.
Sarah, so she is on Zoom.
Okay, all right, we'll move to Sarah Hewson. Okay, Sarah, you can go ahead and begin. Thank you.
That's a lot of energy to follow, and I appreciate all of that last person shared, and I feel like that's hard to follow. I come today with just a few questions. First of all, with regards to Dr. Evans, the communications that we as parents received was that you can't comment on publicly, I understand, and that it's pending investigation. My understanding is that the police did their investigation, and I haven't heard if you all or the district is doing your own independent investigation of that. That isn't clear to me as a parent, so I'm not quite sure what we're waiting for on that. But I will say again, I think there's enough evidence that she should be terminated, or at least be on unpaid leave, especially given the charges that have been filed against her. I am really happy to see that the meetings are being recorded, that they're starting later, and that's really nice to see that you guys have heard us. With regards to the meetings, will those be published somewhere? Will there be kind of policy around, will they be published within a week, so that we can anticipate when those will be posted and when we can watch them if we can't come. And as a parent, I hope that there can be another bond put forward, and I look forward to there being community engagement. And when I came and spoke a number of meetings ago and spoke with Evans at my PSA, she was like, we are giving engagement right now, we're here. But the bond had already been written up. The proposal had already been made. And that was not engagement, that was just Q&A. It wasn't, let's take feedback and tweak this. It had already been decided by the time community engagement came around, at least to what I was aware of. Maybe it was in these private circles that engagement was happening, but my daughter's been at Vinland for 3 years and I didn't hear anything. And I'm on the PTSA, I'm involved, I would have read the emails that, hey, we want your input. So I hope going forward that there's more engagement, and it looks like that's the trajectory we're on. So I look forward to that. And yeah, I will just close with that, and I'm just excited to be part of this community and see that the people in my community are as passionate as I am, and I hope to see that from you guys as well. Thank you.
Okay, and the final speaker is Barb Santos.
Good evening. My name is Barb Santos. I am a Suquamish tribal member. I am speaking as a parent, a proud parent of 2 girls that attend Kingston Middle School, and I speak on behalf of my family, our Santos family out there. I have a lot of nieces and nephews, Suquamish Elementary, Kingston Middle School, Kingston High School, and you know, I'm very proud of them. My girls, they did attend Suquamish Elementary, which is the school I went to when I was very young, and that was 45 years ago, or 45 or more years ago. Briefly on that, I just want to say the next round of another bond, I would like to see that there is input by the school staff from all the North Kitsap schools in regards to the needs for the school. I would really like for the board to walk through the schools to see what they're talking about. I just would like to spread the love to all our schools and make it fair across the board. Today I have a few comments or comments in regards to the Intertribal Parent Education Committee. It is a meeting space for, hang on, I got my notes. It is a meeting space for parents, guardians of any and all American Indians or Alaska Native students who attend North Kitsap School District. And those meetings are each month. Our roles as a parent and guardian of tribal students who attend these meetings is to serve as an advisory to the North Kitsap School District. We share ideas and feedback to ensure the success of our tribal students. Oh no, 22 seconds. All right. We invite parents and guardians of our students to, we share with our families that their voices matter. Your attendance matters as parents, guardians, and tribal community members. It is inherent responsibility to advocate and collaborate and plan for the success of all our tribal students. Could the school district recruit and inform all parents of tribal students at the beginning of the school year? Kind ask. And we've had the superintendent and many of her staff at the meetings. They've heard concerns, but what do they do with the information? I'd like to see that NK staff to report back to our parents and give us updates.
I'm sorry, your time has expired. If you just want to make one more statement, just kind of in summary.
The government to government meetings, I would really like, our, intertribal, committee, or the committee members to meet with you guys, if it's together, separate, whatever. I would like them to be there, and also to, talk, about the, graduation for the North Kitsap, for all the other students. Suquamish puts their own on, Fort Campbell puts their own on, but there is many more tribal students within the North Kitsap School District that does need to be acknowledged, and they're just as important, and their tribes aren't right here to support them.
Thank you.
And then the date for your meeting, the IPNIC meeting is next Tuesday, the 27th, 5 to 6:30.
I do believe it's 5 to 7:30 at the Port Gamble Skull Island Tribe, and that's in Little Boston.
Thank you.
You're all invited. You're all invited.
Thank you.
Okay, the final item is executive session. The board will not need executive session this evening, so the time is,
Mike, real quick.
8.
So now that the election, the bond election's over, I wanted to suggest if we could reach out to Suquamish, to the tribal council, and ask for a meeting, to discuss their, they withdrew their support of the bond. So just, I wanted to wait till after the bond passed, so that they're trying to influence that decision. But to set up another government-to-government meeting with them, at their convenience, let them set the tone, location, who they want there, but that we have another government-to-government meeting and talk with the tribal council directly about their concerns. So if we can work on arranging that. Yeah, well, it doesn't necessarily have to be a meeting, it doesn't have to be the full council, full board, but just, that we arrange a meeting with some of us and some of the council, and just to talk to them about what their concerns were directly. So, I have no timeline, but just at some point, they did express they wanted to talk to us more, last government, so if we could get that on the books somehow.
You guys are all muted on Zoom.
Okay, if there's nothing else, time is 8 minutes after 8 o'clock, and the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah, I saw your